Chapter 794. Fallen Darstar Breakthrough. Merak Footwork Breakthrough. After 3 days, Long Yu finally set foot on the 27th floor. The difficulty of the last few floors was getting higher and higher. Although Long Yu was not injured, he had to put in a lot of effort to pass. This also allowed his 2 main martial skills to finally make breakthroughs. The Fallen Dark Star had broken through from the Grand Perfection realm to the Transcendent realm, allowing the power of this transcendent ancient grade martial skill to be fully displayed. After stepping into the Transcendent realm, the consumption of Fallen Dark Star had been reduced to 1/10 of the original, but its defensive power had doubled, and the destructive power of Star Explosion had also doubled. Most importantly, the speed at which Fallen Dark Stars could be condensed had also doubled. In other words, Long Yu could now condense 30 Fallen Dark Stars in every breath of time. Although there was no need to worry about power consumption in the phantom world of the 5 Emperors, Long Yu still considered that in the outside world, each Fallen Dark Star consumed 1% of his power, so using this move to fight for a long time would be difficult. But now it was different. After reaching the Transcendent realm, the consumption of this move was reduced to 1/10. And the condensation of each Fallen Dark Star only consumed 1/1000th of Long Yu's power. Even in the outside world, Long Yu could use this move as a regular method. Whether it was for attack or defense, it was very powerful. As for the Merak Footwork, it had stepped from peak to perfection, allowing Long Yu to condense the power of the Merak Stars and release the Merak Barrier. The range of the Merak Barrier was very wide, and within its range, all existences except oneself would feel like they were trapped in a quagmire. If one wanted to fight against the Merak Barrier, they would have to spend a certain amount of power on it, thus providing an opportunity for Long Yu. The Merak Boundary Formation didn't have much of an effect when used to deal with King Realm middle stage opponents, but when there were many low-level opponents, the Merak Boundary Formation could directly trap all of them. However, now Long Yu encountered a problem. Because at this time, with the consecutive breakthroughs of his 2 martial arts techniques, the power in the 5 Emperors illusion realm seemed to be almost depleted. At the beginning, there were 10 million illusions, but now there were only 20 illusions left. In other words, Long Yu's current cultivation speed was only equivalent to 20 times that of the outside world. This speed wasn't considered slow, but compared to when he first entered the fantasy realm of the 5 Emperors, it was already very slow. Most importantly, Long Yu felt that it wouldn't be long before the last 20 layers of illusions could no longer be sustained. At that time, there wouldn't be any benefits in the 5 Emperors' illusions. No matter what, there's still at least 20 times the speed. I can't give up. Let's get through this level first. Long Yu stepped foot onto the 27th level, and then he utilized the Eye of Shadow. He noticed that Advanced Stage King Realm Beasts had actually appeared on the 27th level. 4 Advanced Stage King Realm Beasts appeared in 4 different directions of the illusory dimension, and each of them was at ease. Obviously, he had to kill all 4 beasts if he wanted to head to the 28th level. But how could he kill them? Advanced Stage King Realm Beasts were still too powerful for Long Yu now. Let alone 4. Even if there was only 1, Long Yu couldn't possibly defeat it. Even the defense of a star wall condensed by 100 Fallen Dark Stars would be shattered by 1 move. As for Long Yu's attack, his strongest move, the Dragon Breath of the 9 Underworlds, probably wouldn't be able to break through the opponent's defense. I can only attract them to kill each other, just like the previous time. Long Yu quickly thought of a way. At this time, Yu Hanshin's figure jumped out of his mind. He knew that Yu Hanshin had stepped onto the 28th level a few months ago and was forced out. Just like before, Long Yu relied on the Book of Shadows to disguise himself as an early-stage, king-stage, ice god exotic beast. Then, he ran to a place not far from the late-stage, king-stage, ice god exotic beast and went to provoke an earth god exotic beast. The earth god beast and the ice god beast soon started fighting. Then, Long Yu had to think of a problem. How could he provoke the wood god beast and the fire god beast in the distance? His Book of Shadows could only allow him to disguise himself as an ice god beast. If he wanted to provoke the wood god beast and the fire god beast, he definitely couldn't disguise himself as an ice god beast. Since that was the case, he definitely couldn't rely on the Book of Shadows. He had to think of another way. Other people, like Yuhanshin, definitely won't disguise themselves. So there must be a way to provoke these beasts to fight each other. After thinking for a while, Long Yu thought of a way. If he couldn't disguise himself as an exotic beast, then there was no need for him to show himself. He moved and directly dashed towards the dense forest where the wood god beast was. Then, he turned into a shadow and sneaked into the forest. When he saw the wood god beast in the distance, he directly condensed the power of the law of sunfire, formed a huge fireball, and blasted it at it. The wood god beast was the most sensitive to the power of the divine characters of fire. Although this attack didn't hurt it at all, it became extremely angry. It became violent and rushed towards the place where the fireball came from. The wood god whip whistled and directly smashed the place where the fireball condensed into pieces. But soon, an even bigger fireball condensed at the edge of the dense forest and attacked it again. The wood god beast was furious and directly rushed to the edge of the dense forest. Endless divine characters of the wood element condensed and formed vines and blades, destroying the entire dense forest along the way. The destructive power of the late-stage King Realm beast was extremely terrifying. Almost in just a moment, the entire dense forest was almost destroyed. And the movement here naturally attracted the fire god beast not far away. Because Long Yu had lured the wood god race exotic beast to the edge of the forest, he vented his anger at the volcano crater and destroyed the terrain around the crater. The fire god race exotic beast thought that this was a provocation to it, so it immediately attacked in anger. The initiator, Long Yu, should have been watching the show leisurely, but in fact, it wasn't easy for him, because the battle between the late-stage King Realm beasts was too fierce. The four beasts fought fiercely at the same time and directly affected the entire fantasy dimension. Long Yu dodged the wood god's whip in one moment, and then blocked the lava pillar that fell from the sky in the next. After a while, he had to face the rain of ice arrows from the ice god race, as well as the terrifying meteorites from the earth god race. Every meteorite could create a huge crater in the ground. Any attack from the late-stage King Realm beasts was a great threat to Long Yu. Long Yu had to have over 100 fallen dark stars ready at all times. When faced with an attack, he would first try to dodge. If he couldn't dodge, he would have to condense over 100 fallen dark stars to form a star wall to block. Generally speaking, he would be able to withstand it. Fortunately, those beasts were fighting separately and didn't focus on Long Yu, so he could barely resist the impact. In this process, the pressure on Long Yu was no less than facing a late-stage King Realm beast head-on. But fortunately, he didn't need to think about attacking. He just needed to wait for the beasts to decide the winner. The Merak footwork and Fallen Dark Star continued to improve at a speed of 20 times. Although it was much slower than before, this speed was still ecstatic. Even if he only maintained this speed, Long Yu would soon be able to comprehend the Fallen Dark Star to the Transformation Realm. However, the reality was harsh. When the late-stage King Realm beasts fought with each other, it didn't take too long to end the battle. None of the four beasts were intact. At least they were seriously injured. The Ice God Clan beast was even torn into several pieces by the Earth God Clan beast and completely died. There were only 3 seriously injured beasts left in the field. Long Yu made his move at this time. The 9 Nether Dragon breath was like an eerie aura that came from the Netherworld. The terrifying energy completely incinerated the Wood God Clan beast into ashes. 9 Nether Hand. A white bone arm stretched out from the void. After breaking through to a high-grade magical power, this white bone arm also became bigger, and it could grab more than 10 people in one hand. At this time, it aimed at the Fire God Clan beast whose flames were about to extinguish and directly crushed it into ashes. Fallen Dark Star. Star Explosion. Long Yu calmly condensed 500 fallen dark stars and directly killed the last Earth God Clan beast. Because the Earth God Clan beast was the least injured and had a strong defense, Long Yu could only secretly condense 500 fallen dark stars and then kill it in one fell swoop. The 4 late-stage King Realm beasts were finally all killed. The scene in front of him changed, and Long Yu stepped on the 28th floor. There was only one beast in front of him, a late-stage king realm beast. Moreover, this beast was not one of the 4 beasts he saw before, but a winged god clan beast. The winged god clan beast was the 8-clawed flying bat that Long Yu had seen before. This beast's white bones were extremely conspicuous, and it had 8 long white claws and a pair of wide bat wings. Its flying speed was extremely fast. This was not the first time that Long Yu had seen a winged god clan beast of the late-stage king realm. In the Red Emperor's illusion realm of the North Snow Imperial City, there were 3 such beasts guarding the final treasure palace. Even their cultivation was the same. Do I have to deal with this late-stage king realm beast? Long Yu's heart sank. This was very difficult. No wonder even Yuhanshin was eliminated on this floor. At this time, Long Yu did not know that Black Knife and Yi Ziwei were also defeated on this floor, but as long as there was a chance, Long Yu naturally would not admit defeat. What's more, there were more than 10 floors in the illusion realm of the 5 emperors, and Long Yu could still obtain more than 10 times the cultivation speed of martial skills and supernatural powers. No matter what, he could not leave like this. He had to try. Fortunately, after I encountered it in the illusion realm of the Red Emperor, I inquired about this winged god clan beast from the Death Messenger. Now that I know its weakness, it is not impossible to kill it. Long Yu thought for a moment. Without any hesitation, he directly condensed 5 primordial shadows, and then he urged the primordial shadows and himself to retreat at an extremely fast speed. The winged god clan beast of the late-stage king realm only needed 1 attack to kill Long Yu. Of course, Long Yu would not stay there and wait for the winged god clan beast to attack. He had to attack first. The primordial shadows that did not consume any energy were Long Yu's greatest reliance to fight against this winged god clan beast. 9 Nether Hand, Nether Spiral, Soul Seal Rainbow, 9 Nether Dragon Breath. Chapter 795. A series of attacks blasted out, but the late-stage king realm winged god beast didn't panic in the slightest. It waved its 8 white claws, and the power of space divine runes condensed into sharp blades or barriers, directly blocking all of Long Yu's attacks. The winged god clan specializes in divine runes of space. However, a late-stage king realm winged god clan's exotic beast might have other means. I can't be careless. Long Yu thought to himself. He was ready to use Heavenly Jade Star Shadow to avoid the opponent's attack. In this battle, which was tens of thousands of meters in the sky, Long Yu's shadow form was useless. He could only fight head-on. Fallen Dark Star. Long Yu didn't hesitate. After the 5 ancient shadows released an attack, they immediately began to condense fallen dark stars. The speed at which the ancient shadows condensed wasn't as fast as Long Yu himself, but they could condense about 20 fallen dark stars in every breath. The 5 ancient desolate phantoms combined could condense 100 fallen dark stars every breath of time. If he wanted to kill an intact late-stage king realm-winged god clan's exotic beast, 100 fallen dark stars were far from enough. Moreover, because this exotic beast was proficient in divine runes of space, Long Yu wasn't sure if he could hit it. Suddenly, Long Yu sensed danger approaching. Without hesitation, he used Heavenly Jade Star Shadow, leaving behind an afterimage. Then, he crossed space and appeared 200 meters away. When he looked back, he saw the winged god clan's exotic beast appear behind him. Its 2 white claws crushed the afterimage he left behind. If Long Yu's movements had been half a beat slower, then he would have already died at the hands of his opponent. It was truly an extremely dangerous situation. I can only do this. Come out, Azura Sacred Tree. Long Yu finally released the Azura Sacred Tree for the first time after entering the fantasy world of the 5 emperors. Almost at the same time the Azura Sacred Tree appeared, the winged god clan's exotic beast tore through space and attacked Long Yu again. The demonic beast of the winged god race, which had mastered the divine characters of space, could teleport almost infinitely. Furthermore, It was able to distinguish between Long Yu's true body and the primordial afterimage. It was determined to tear Long Yu's true body to shreds. Unfortunately, the Azura tree just happened to appear, and countless pitch-black vines covered the sky and sealed off the space in the vicinity. Even a late-stage king realm winged god beast was unable to teleport directly to Long Yu's side. Immediately afterward, the Azura's sacred tree's thousands of vines danced around like a group of demons, surrounding the winged god clan's exotic beast. Without a doubt, even the Azura's sacred tree wasn't a match for the winged god clan's exotic beast. However, it could easily delay it for some time. The Azura holy tree released by the 5 emperors in the fantasy world wasn't limitless. It only managed to trap the winged beast for 3 breaths of time before all the black vines were cut apart by the space blades. The Azura holy tree was almost completely destroyed. However, at this moment, Long Yu raised his hand, and the dark star he had condensed for 3 breaths of time appeared, directly enveloping the winged beast. However, the dark star imprisonment only managed to trap the exotic beast for a breath's time. 500 fallen dark stars, it's still not enough. Long Yu glanced around and saw that his 5 primordial afterimages had condensed a total of 500 fallen dark stars. However, if they exploded now, they definitely wouldn't be able to kill the winged beast in one fell swoop. At least 1,000 fallen dark stars would be needed. The power of such a chain explosion would increase exponentially, and it could even completely destroy the fantasy world. However, to achieve this level, Long Yu had to persist for another 5 breaths of time. As long as he persisted for another 5 breaths of time, he might be able to kill the winged beast. Even if the winged beast mastered the power of the divine characters of space, where could it hide when Long Yu's attack covered the entire space? The power of one fallen dark star's explosion wasn't strong. At most, it could only be used to deal with opponents in the divine secret realm. However, if 10 fallen dark stars exploded together, the power wasn't 10 times that of a single explosion, but a shocking 100 times. This was because the power of a chain explosion was even stronger. If one could condense 1,000 fallen dark stars and explode together, even a late-stage king realm beast wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, the key question was, would the winged beast give Long Yu 5 breaths of time? Ancient Dragon Bone Tower, appear, 9 nether heavenly screen. Long Yu directly released the ancient Dragon Bone Tower and hid inside. At the same time, he summoned the 9 nether heavenly screen to appear on the surface of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. In the next moment, the winged beast's white claws clawed at the surface of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower, directly shattering the powerful 9 nether heavenly screen. Long Yu could feel a strange power attached to the winged beast's 8 white claws, causing the 8 claws' destructive power to seem endless. It was almost comparable to Long Yu's void nether dragon blade, and could shatter anything with a single claw. Its origin power. Long Yu was very clear that this kind of energy was the source energy of a late-stage king realm expert. It was the same for exotic beasts. The source energy of every cultivator was different. It seemed that the source energy of this winged god clan exotic beast was attached to its white claws, which greatly increased the destructive power of its claws. Without hesitation, Long Yu conjured the 9 nether heavenly screen. However, the speed at which he conjured the 9 nether heavenly screen was slower than the beast's destructive power. The ancient Dragon Bone Tower only lasted for 3 breaths of time before it was completely penetrated by the 8 white claws. Following the destruction of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower, Long Yu had no choice but to flee from it. However, at that moment he had an idea. Shadow transformation. Long Yu immediately turned into a shadow and hid among the countless fragments of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Originally, there were no shadows for Long Yu to hide in at such a high altitude. But now, the countless fragments of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower provided Long Yu with cover. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. When the winged beast lost track of Long Yu, it immediately became enraged. It waved its 8 claws continuously, and terrifying spatial blades tore through the entire space. The large fragments of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower were all reduced to small fragments. As such, Long Yu's figure had nowhere to hide. A human-shaped shadow could be clearly seen among the many smaller shadows. The winged god race mutated beast waved its claws and pounced over. Boundless divine runes condensed into blades, wanting to tear Long Yu to shreds in the next instant. However, at this moment, Long Yu's tactic of stalling for time finally came to fruition. Fallen Dark Star explode. Long Yu gritted his teeth, and the 5 desolate ancient phantoms around him directly surrounded the thousands of fallen dark stars he had gathered so far. In the next moment, they all exploded. The boundless explosive power of the fallen dark stars instantly covered the entire space. Not only did it envelop the winged beast, but it also enveloped Long Yu himself. Not to mention Long Yu. Even that winged demonic beast couldn't escape. The 5 primordial shadows were the first to be annihilated, followed by the fragments of the ancient Dragonbone Tower. They were all annihilated by the explosive power of the fallen dark stars. Not even their bodies were left behind. After that, it was Long Yu and the winged beast. The beast wanted to teleport away before the explosion arrived, but the explosion came too quickly. Moreover, the explosion had covered almost the entire space. The beast couldn't escape even if it wanted to. In truth, the beast plan was very good. With its strength, there was no need for it to pay attention to Long Yu's primordial shadows. It could just kill Long Yu himself. However, it didn't expect Long Yu to have so many tricks up his sleeve. He was actually able to resist it for 10 breaths of time. When the explosion occurred, the beast died without a grave. Even Long Yu suffered the same fate. This was his current limit. If his cultivation was at the middle stage of the King Realm, he could use any martial technique without limit. It was even possible for him to deal with a powerful beast at the middle stage of the Emperor Realm. But right now, the methods Long Yu could use were too limited. With just the Merak footwork and Fallen Dark Star, it would be far too difficult to deal with this winged God Clan exotic beast that could control space divine runes. In front of this beast, Long Yu's Merak footwork was like a baby that didn't know how to walk. It was extremely clumsy. As for the Fallen Dark Star, it couldn't resist the beast's attack at all. Fortunately, this was the illusion realm of the 5 Emperors. Everything here was an illusion. Long Yu didn't really lose the ancient Dragonbone Tower and the Azura Sacred Tree. Otherwise, he would have suffered a great loss. More than 1,000 fallen dark stars exploded and swept through the entire space. Even Long Yu was not spared. However, before Long Yu was killed by his own explosion, he subconsciously used the Dragon Sparrow Flash. In the face of such a terrifying explosion, coupled with the slash of the winged beast that contained the power of space before its death, the Dragon Sparrow Flash was not enough to save Long Yu's life. However, it was this Dragon Sparrow Flash that made Long Yu's mind suddenly light up. He had made a breakthrough. A mere profound martial technique that he hadn't used for a long time actually made a breakthrough at this time. Dragon Sparrow Dance. Step into the transformation realm. Long Yu was inexplicably happy. Originally, he thought that his trip to the illusion realm of the 5 Emperors was about to end. However, when the Dragon Sparrow Dance stepped into the transformation realm, he found that after he died, a strange black flame energy actually surrounded him and rebuilt his body. Dragon Sparrow bathing in fire, Nirvana rebirth. Long Yu had never thought that this move would be so powerful after comprehending it to the perfection realm. But very quickly, he knew that this move wasn't too strong, because after his rebirth, he didn't have any strength in his body at all. Even a random kid in the body-tempering realm would be able to kill him. Dragon Sparrow bathing in fire could let Long Yu be reborn. But what was reborn was not his original body, but a fragile body that had not stepped into the martial way at all, alas. Long Yu could only sigh in disappointment. Even so, it was not bad in the illusion realm of the 5 Emperors. It allowed Long Yu to pass through the 28th floor and set foot on the 29th floor. I did surpass Yuhan Xin, but I couldn't catch up with Xing Fa. The chief personal disciple of the Red Emperor is really not simple. Long Yu thought, especially when he saw that after setting foot on the 29th floor, he actually had to face 2 Ice God Clan beasts in the late stage of the King Realm. He admired Xing Fa even more. Long Yu would die to deal with one beast, let alone two. With his current strength, it was impossible at all. But Xing Fa, in the past, passed this floor and set foot on the 30th floor. Originally, Long Yu was ready to end this trip to the illusion realm of the Five Emperors, but suddenly he was surprised to find that his body, which had become a cripple, actually recovered to its peak when he set foot on the 29th floor. What's going on? Chapter 796. The 29th floor. The spectators outside the sacred tower were already numb to the sight of Long Yu's repeated miracles. Some were even beginning to suspect that something had gone wrong in the Five Emperors' illusion realm. However, Blackblade and Yi Ziwei were eliminated on the 28th floor. There shouldn't be any problems in the Five Emperors' illusion realm. He actually made it to the 29th floor. Blackblade was resting with his eyes closed, but he opened them when he heard the commotion around him. He immediately saw the news on the sacred tower. Long Yu, 29th floor, unscathed. Blackblade's eyes shone with a strong desire to fight. He originally didn't want to bother with a mere 5-Dao transcendent realm cultivator. But now, this guy had surpassed him in the Five Emperors' illusion realm. This piqued Blackblade's interest in Long Yu. He was a late Emperor realm cultivator now, much stronger than Long Yu. He defeated too many great Emperor realm beasts on the first 27 floors. But on the 28th floor, his opponent was a late Emperor realm winged god beast. The gap between them was too great. That was why he couldn't defeat his opponent. One couldn't enter the Five Emperors' illusion realm after reaching the Emperor realm, because the Five Emperors' illusion realm couldn't withstand the power of an Emperor realm expert. If an Emperor realm expert were to enter, the power of the Five Emperors' illusion realm would be exhausted the moment they set foot on the 10th floor. Therefore, the Five Emperor illusory realms were only used to select powerful young geniuses. Blackblade had entered the Five Emperor illusory realms at the late stage of the Emperor realm, but he was stuck at the final juncture. He was no longer qualified to advance any further. A late Emperor realm winged god beast had terrifying combat strength. It could destroy an entire space with a wave of its hand. After all, there were less than 100 experts at this level in the entire Five Emperors' holy city. Though Blackblade was talented, he was only an Emperor realm cultivator at the end of the day. There was only one way out for him against a late Emperor realm beast. Even so, he managed to hold out for the time it took for an incense stick to burn before being killed by the beast. If I'm not mistaken, Long Yu, who is in the divinity secret realm, encountered an exotic beast at the late stage of the king realm on the 28th level. Although the real strength of the exotic beast was suppressed, Long Yu was able to defeat a late-stage king realm cultivator at the divinity secret realm. Black Saber couldn't help but admire Long Yu. His eyes were filled with murderous intent and boundless battle intent. If he had the chance, he would definitely spar with Long Yu. However, Black Knife was a man of principle. Of course, he would not issue a challenge now, because Long Yu was only in the 5-Daos divinity secret realm. It wasn't worth challenging him yet. When Long Yu stepped into the same realm as him, he would definitely not let go of the chance to challenge Long Yu. Black Knife knew that a genius like Long Yu was only in the divinity secret realm because he didn't have enough resources to cultivate. Now that he had shown his talent and became the personal disciple of the Red Emperor, he would definitely have a lot of resources. When the time comes, it would be normal for him to catch up in the martial Dao realm. Unfortunately, Black Knife didn't see the flashing news on the sacred tower. It was this news that made the spectators think that there was a problem with the illusion realm of the Five Emperors. When Long Yu was on the 28th level, the word dead was clearly displayed. But then, he quickly became unharmed and stepped into the 29th level. What's going on? I don't know. Is there really a problem with the illusion realm of the Five Emperors? But this is unlikely. The illusion realm of the Five Emperors is a place jointly created by the Five Emperors. There has never been a problem with it for hundreds of years. However, that Long Yu had clearly died once. How was it possible for him to ascend to the 29th level unharmed? I don't know. We can only ask Long Yu himself. It is said that even the five emperors can't spy on the battle in the five emperors' illusion realm. The death they saw of Long Yu was because Long Yu detonated 1,000 fallen dark stars and perished together with the winged god clan beast in the late stage of the king realm. But soon, he was reborn because of the dragon sparrow's fire. Although he became a cripple who didn't step into martial Dao, he was still alive, so he was sent to the 29th level. As for why Long Yu completely recovered to his previous peak state when he reached the 29th level, even Long Yu himself didn't know the answer. Recovery automatically every time you step on a level? Impossible. Before I stepped into the illusion realm of the five emperors, I asked around. If you're injured in the illusion realm of the five emperors, unless you know a healing martial skill or divine power, it is impossible to recover on your own. You should know that there are no medicinal pills in the illusion realm of the five emperors. However, there is a related rumor. Long Yu pondered as he withstood the attacks of the two Ice God clan exotic beasts with great difficulty, and soon came up with a possible guess. The Five Monarchs illusory realm was just a place created by the five monarchs with thousands of illusory realms. In this place, every cultivator could only cultivate their martial skills and abilities. Their cultivation base, combat weapon compatibility, and other aspects would not improve at all, because it only had one function: the cultivation of martial skills and divine power in the illusion realm of the five emperors could be so fast. However, some people might enter a state of epiphany when fighting in the illusion realm of the five emperors and suddenly improve their martial Dao realm. Under such circumstances, the cultivator's body in reality had already broken through, but in the illusion realm of the five emperors, such a situation was not allowed to happen. To put it simply, the cultivator had broken through in reality, but the cultivation of his body in the illusion realm of the five emperors would not change. Long Yu's body in the five emperors' illusion realm had become a cripple through the rebirth of fire. But in the end, this was also a change in cultivation. The illusion realm of the five emperors would obviously adjust it back. Originally, Long Yu's death and rebirth of fire only happened in the illusion realm of the five emperors. Just like the destruction of the Azura Sacred Tree and the Dragonbone Ancient Tower, it did not really happen. Therefore, when the five emperors' illusion realm detected the change in Long Yu's cultivation, it directly reconstructed an illusory body for him to continue fighting in the illusion realm of the five emperors. Of course, this was only Long Yu's guess. Although there was a 90% chance that this was the case, he couldn't be sure. Even if it was true, it would not be of any help to the battle he was facing now. Two late-stage King Realm, Ice God Clan beasts. Long Yu used all his strength to resist the attacks of the two beasts. He had condensed thousands of fallen dark stars, but they were all smashed into pieces by the two beasts. At this time, the two late-stage King Realm, Ice God Clan beasts attacked Long Yu, one from the front and one from the back. The terrifying power of the Ice Divine text almost frightened Long Yu to the point that he could not move. However, after the difficult battle of a few breaths, Long Yu had found an opportunity to defeat the two late-stage King Realm beasts. Of these two beasts, one is in charge of attack, and the other is in charge of defense. The one in charge of attack should have a weaker defense. In just a few breaths of battle, Long Yu realized this. If he did not take action, he would be killed by the two beasts in the next moment. He would not be able to resist at all. He had used up all his defense and teleportation methods in these few breaths. Now, he was unable to dodge or resist, so he could only use his trump card. Dragon of 9 Underworld True Spirit, explode. Long Yu finally decided to use this move. The true spirit of the dragon of the 9 underworlds with a boundless aura suddenly appeared behind him. It was as if the aura had come from the netherworld, and it completely intimidated the two late-stage, king-stage, strange beasts. When he was on the upper floor, Long Yu had thought of using this move, but this was his last resort. If there were other ways to kill his opponents, he would never use this move first. 3 breaths of time. Long Yu knew that he could only use the Dragon of 9 Underworld True Spirit once a month, and it could only deter the two beasts for 3 breaths of time. During these 3 breaths of time, the two beasts were in a completely defenseless state. Kill them. Heaven Underworld Explosion. In the first breath, Long Yu directly blasted the Heaven Underworld Explosion at the Ice God Clan exotic beast behind him. The 9 Underworld Divine text instantly exploded and enveloped the exotic beast. However, beasts at the late stage of the King Realm had incomparably strong bodies. Long Yu actually failed to kill them with this move. However, this was also within Long Yu's expectation. In the second breath, the space penetration and the Dragon of 9 Underworld breath hit the weak point of the King Realm exotic beast at the same time. With balanced control and familiarity with the Ice God Clan exotic beast, Long Yu condensed the Dragon of 9 Underworld breath into a thin beam. In this way, its penetrating power was greatly improved. If you didn't know the weakness of the Ice God Clan exotic beast, such a thin beam of Dragon of 9 Underworld breath couldn't kill the powerful late-stage King Realm exotic beast at all. For example, if you didn't know a person's weakness was the heart and the head, you could directly stab that person's thigh, arm, or even chest with a dagger, and it wouldn't be fatal. It was the same with the Ice God Clan exotic beast. Long Yu had already learned from the Death Messenger where the weakness of the Ice God Clan exotic beast was located. With 2 moves at the same time, he finally penetrated the weak point of the late-stage King Realm exotic beast and barely killed it. There was only 1 breath left of the Dragon of 9 Underworld True Spirits Intimidation. Long Yu began to condense the fallen Dark Star again, preparing to deal with the remaining exotic beast with strong defense. There's still 1 Ice God Clan exotic beast with strong defense, but its attack power isn't very strong. I should be able to find a chance to kill it slowly. Long Yu thought. Long Yu could completely resist the remaining exotic beast attack with the fallen Dark Star and balance control, but it was still very difficult to find a chance to kill it. This would be a protracted battle that would take a long time, but Long Yu wasn't worried. With balance control, he would definitely gradually gain the upper hand in a protracted battle. When the two sides were evenly matched and engaged in a protracted battle, the key to victory was who could persist longer. But in the illusion world of the 5 emperors, both Long Yu and the exotic beast had unlimited power, and neither could persist forever. In this case, the only thing that could affect the outcome was a mistake. Whoever made a mistake first would lose. Chapter 797. When Long Yu fell into the final battle, the remaining power in the 5 Emperors' illusion world was gradually consumed. From a moment he stepped onto the 29th level, the tens of thousands of illusions were only left with 10 layers of illusions, which could only increase Long Yu's cultivation speed by 10 times. As Long Yu fought with the last late-stage King Realm Ice God Clan beast, the 10 layers of illusions began to gradually disappear. The origin power mastered by this late-stage King Realm Ice God Clan exotic beast was defense. This was the power generated after the exotic beast's inner world merged with the true spirit. It was different from the Origin 9 Nether Divine text that Long Yu mastered, or the Origin Heavenly Fire Divine text that Chihua mastered. The Origin Power and the Origin Divine text were 2 different kinds of power. With the protection of my source force, it's almost impossible for me to defeat this strange beast, but it can't hurt me either. Without the amplification of my source force, I should be able to resist its attacks with the fallen Dark Star. Long Yu thought to himself. He fought steadily, relying on the Merak steps and the fallen Dark Star to fight with the exotic beast. The late-stage King Realm exotic beast, seeing that it couldn't even deal with a mere 5 Divine Power Realm kid, couldn't help but feel a little angry, and its attacks became more and more violent. Ice Arrow, Ice Sword Chi, Ice Blast, Ice Cage. All kinds of methods were used by this Ice God Clan exotic beast. Even a single ice arrow could shatter several of Long Yu's fallen Dark Stars. However, Long Yu could continuously condense fallen Dark Stars. He could condense 30 fallen Dark Stars every breath. While defending, he still had the strength to counterattack and make the extra fallen Dark Stars explode. 8 layers, 6 layers, 5 layers. In the illusion realm of the 5 emperors, the power that had been accumulated for a month was constantly being consumed. Finally, it was about to be used up. Long you didn't know what would happen to the entire illusion realm of the 5 emperors after the last 5 layers of the illusion realm disappeared. However, since he could double his cultivation, he wouldn't let go of this opportunity. If we continue fighting like this, I won't be able to do anything to this beast in the end. Its defensive origin energy is just too difficult to deal with. Even if the spatial nether dragon blade stabs through space, it'll be directly repelled. Amidst the continuous battles, Long Yu felt that his cultivation speed of martial techniques and divine arts had slowed down. Although it was faster than the outside world, it was not much faster. 3rd floor. 2 levels. In the fantasy realm of the 5 emperors, there were only 2 fantasy realms left. It was also at this time that Long Yu finally found a flaw in the Ice God clan's exotic beast. He used the high-grade divine ability, Hand of 9 Nether, and sent a wisp of 9 Nether divine characters into the beast's body. Isn't your defense strong? Will you be able to block this move? With a thought, Long Yu detonated the 9 Nether divine characters that had sneaked into the body of the Ice God clan's exotic beast. The impact from the inside made the Ice God clan's exotic beast shake a little. However, the Ice God clan's exotic beast's physical strength had been tempered from the inside out. Even if the 9 Nether divine characters exploded from the inside, it wouldn't be able to cause too much damage to it. But at this time, Long Yu took advantage of the exotic beast's unsteadiness to directly rush forward with the spatial Nether Dragon blade in his hand. He aimed at the Ice God clan's exotic beast's weak point and stabbed it hard. The spatial Nether Dragon blade was an ancient top-grade combat weapon. If Long Yu wanted to kill this exotic beast that looked like a 10,000-year-old tortoise, he could only rely on the spatial Nether Dragon blade. Whether it was the dragon breath of the 9 Nether or the fallen dark star, none of them could harm this exotic beast. The dragon breath of the 9 Nether had killed the late-stage king realm exotic beast, but that was because it had been intimidated by Long Yu and had no defense at all. Moreover, the exotic beast didn't have any defensive origin energy. But now, the exotic beast Long Yu was facing was a 10,000-year-old tortoise through and through. Long Yu stabbed down with the spatial Nether Dragon blade while using the Soul Seal Siphon and Phantom Spiral, immobilizing the exotic beast for a second. In that second, Long Yu had swung the spatial Nether Dragon blade over a dozen times, stabbing the same spot with extreme precision every time. Finally, he shattered the opponent's defensive origin energy and created a small gap. It was this small gap that gave Long Yu hope of defeating this exotic beast. Before the exotic beast could return to its senses, Long Yu directly opened his mouth, and the power of the dragon breath of the 9 Nether Dragon blade condensed in his mouth. Then, Long Yu directly sprayed it into the small gap in the exotic beast's origin energy defense at close range. The dragon breath of the 9 Nether was a high-grade magic. After being balanced and condensed into a thin beam, its penetrating ability was definitely the strongest move that Long Yu could perform, even surpassing space penetration. This move directly blasted the Ice God exotic beast away. Even though it had a body that was 100 times stronger than Long Yu's, its weakness was directly penetrated by Long Yu's dragon breath, and it fell into death. On the surface, the Ice God exotic beast body was almost intact, but there was a small hole in a certain place, and it was this small hole that penetrated its entire body and caused the exotic beast's death. If it was someone else, if they didn't know the weakness of the Ice God exotic beast, it would be absolutely impossible to kill such an exotic beast. Now, Long Yu really used all the things that he could use and put in all his effort to finally kill it. The difficulty could be imagined. Merak Steps, Fallen Dark Star, Hand of the 9 Nether, Soul Seal Rainbow, Dragon Breath of the 9 Nether, with all the means that Long Yu had mastered, even if he lacked one of them, he wouldn't be able to kill this exotic beast. In the end, the 2 late-stage King Realm exotic beasts were killed by Long Yu, but this also forced him to use all his trump cards. Of course, this did not include the Azura Ancient Palace. If it was a battle outside, With the Azura ancient palace's cover, he would have an easier time fighting. The scene in front of him changed, and Long Yu directly stepped onto the 30th floor, the same result as the Red Emperor's chief disciple, Xing Fa. However, before long Yu could clearly investigate the situation on this floor. His whole body seemed to be torn apart, and the entire space of the Five Emperors fantasy world seemed to be torn apart by some kind of force. By the way, of the millions of illusions of the Five Emperors fantasy world, there's only the last floor left. Even if I stay here to fight, there will be no effect of accelerating my cultivation. Long Yu quickly discovered this, but then his mind became dizzy, and the scene in front of him changed instantly. He subconsciously used the Eye of Shadow and looked around, only to find that he was sitting cross-legged in a building. He couldn't help but understand that he had come out of the Five Emperors fantasy world, so he appeared on the 5th floor of the Holy Tower. He pondered for a moment, then flew out from a window behind him. This window was the one he flew in from. Ha ha! Junior brother Long Yu, this is really a surprise. As soon as Long Yu flew out of the window, a loud laugh came from not far away. He knew who it was as soon as he heard it. The chief disciple of the Red Emperor thought, Xing Fa. Long Yu looked up and saw Xing Fa wearing a red cloak, walking towards him with a smile. Is it over? The battle of the Five Emperors fantasy world that lasted for more than 3 days was finally over, and Long Yu stepped into the 30th floor at the last moment, shocking everyone. He was the best in the world, and his name was spread far and wide. In fact, the number of cultivators around the Holy Tower to watch was more than when the Five Emperors fantasy world opened. When the Five Emperors fantasy world opened, it was beneficial for these people. Some of them didn't come, but now they came to see Long Yu. This was because those who could step into the 30th floor of the Five Emperors fantasy world had all become famous powerhouses, such as Xing Fa and Qi Tianming. They had all become the chief disciple of one of the Five Emperors, and it was very likely that they would inherit their respective master's mantle in the future. Who wouldn't want to take a look at such a genius and then befriend him if there was a chance? Moreover, in this battle of the Five Emperors fantasy world, there were 3 super geniuses, and they were at least as talented as Yuan Xin. Blackblade and Yi Ziwei stepped into the 28th floor, while Long Yu stepped into the 30th floor. In the past 50 years, no one had been able to step into the 30th floor, but Long Yu had exceeded everyone's expectations and achieved this. If anyone said that Long Yu could step into the 30th floor before the opening of the Five Emperors fantasy world, everyone would think that person was joking. Was it possible for a mere 5 Daos divine realm cultivator? But now, the truth was in front of everyone. The Gongsun clan, which had hoped that Long Yu wouldn't be able to step into the 10th floor. Where are they now? Under the leadership of the Gongsun clan head, a group of Gongsun clan members gathered at the entrance of the Sacred Tower. They weren't qualified to enter, but they were waiting for Long Yu to come out so that they could give Long Yu a gift and apologize. How was Lan Shuyan, who had made a bet with Long Yu, feeling now? Everyone from Ninth Sun sect had a dark expression, especially Lan Shuyan. He was already very unhappy that Long Yu had surpassed him. What made him even more unhappy was that his master actually forced him to apologize to Long Yu. He was a genius of Ninth Sun sect. He almost stepped into the 20th floor of the Five Emperors fantasy world and became the personal disciple of Emperor Yin. Such talent. However, this Long Yu's talent was so monstrous that he could step into the 30th floor of the Five Emperors fantasy world. It was like the difference between the 10th floor and the 20th floor. The difference between the 20th floor and the 30th floor was like the difference between heaven and earth. Needless to say, Lan Shuyan didn't even step into the 20th floor and was defeated on the 19th floor. Didn't this mean that he, Lan Shuyan, was like an ordinary martial cultivator in front of Long Yu? He only had trash talent? On the other side, when Qin Yashuang and Zisu saw Long Yu coming out, they almost cried tears of joy. In the beginning, when they had decided to follow Long Yu, the 2 women only had a tentative attitude. But now, the 2 women were extremely glad that they had made the decision to follow Long Yu. No wonder Senior Long dared to bet with the special crystal of an Emperor Realm cultivator. It turns out that he was confident in himself. I told you that Senior Long would definitely win. Emir Lan Shuyin was completely disregarded by Senior Long. Zisu smiled and held hands with Qin Yashuang. Then they followed behind the genius Yi Ziwei and flew towards Long Yu. After a period of interaction, just now, the relationship between the two girls and Yi Ziwei had become good. The three girls flew towards Long Yu together and quickly arrived in front of Long Yu. They all bowed to Qi Tianming and Xing Fa. Chapter 798. Everyone was flying towards him. That scene made Long Yu realize how popular he was now. He turned around and glanced at the top of the sacred tower. He discovered that even Blackblade and Yi Ziwei had only reached the 28th floor. This result wasn't bad, but compared to Long Yu, it was undoubtedly overshadowed. The 30th floor, what a pity. Xing Fa patted Long Yu's shoulder and chuckled. Junior brother, if it weren't for Black Knife and Yi Ziwei participating this time and exhausting the power of the Five Emperors Illusion Realm, you might still be able to continue advancing. In that case, the power of the Five Emperors Illusion Realm was exhausted, so the entire Five Emperors Illusion Realm collapsed. Long Yu asked, "That's right, what a pity." From Xing Fa's eyes, he could indeed see that it was a pity. He himself had only reached the 30th floor and was killed on the 30th floor. However, when Long Yu reached the 30th floor, the power of the Five Emperors Illusion Realm had been exhausted, which was a pity. However, Long Yu was fine with it because he knew that even if the Five Emperors Illusion Realm did not collapse, he would not be able to advance any further. This was because he had used up all his means, be it the Azura Tree, the Dragon Bone Tower, or the means of the Dragon of Hades. After returning to the modern world, Long Yu checked his body as usual and found that the Azura Tree and the Dragon Bone Tower were still there. He finally heaved a sigh of relief. Even if he knew that it was an illusion, it did not feel good to see both destroyed. There's nothing to regret. Even if the Five Emperors Illusion Realm did not collapse, I would have been killed on this floor. Long Yu smiled at Xing Fa and explained. However, Xing Fa did not hear this. He only felt that Long Yu was being humble, but he did not know that Long Yu was really like that. Long Yu, congratulations. Qi Tianming also said with a smile, "You've been working hard for nearly 4 days. Go back with Xing Fa and rest first. Now that you're Lord Red Emperor's personal disciple in name, you naturally have your own designated residence. The Sacred Tower is open to you." The sanctum. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat when he heard that, and he subconsciously lifted his head to look at the sanctum. Even now, he could not see the top of this white sacred pagoda. It was said that this sacred pagoda was directly connected to the outer heavens world. No one knew exactly how high it was. If one continued to fly towards the top of the tower, they would soon encounter a great resistance. Even a great emperor powerhouse wouldn't be able to reach the top of the tower. All they could see was the tower reaching into the clouds. After becoming a personal disciple of the Five Emperors, one could have a floor in the sacred tower as one's residence. Even if the cultivation conditions there weren't better than the brilliant sun in, it wouldn't be any worse. Master isn't in the holy city of the Five Emperors right now, but when he returns and hears that you've stepped onto the 30th floor, he'll definitely be very happy. Xing Fa waved his hand and said with a smile, "Now follow me." Long Yu nodded and then looked at Yi Ziwei and Zisu with some hesitation. Long Yu had made a promise to these two girls. He couldn't just leave like that. At the very least, he had to ensure that Lan Shuyin from the Ninth Sun sect wouldn't cause trouble for them. However, Xing Fa smiled and said, "Little junior brother, you can bring them into the sacred tower. Many of the personal disciples of the Five Emperors have family members. It's very normal for them to bring their family members into the sacred tower." Hearing the word family, Qin Yashuang and Zisu instantly blushed. Long Yu didn't mind. If the two girls could follow him, then Lan Shuyin wouldn't be able to cause trouble for them. Who would dare to cause trouble in the sacred tower? Forget about causing trouble. Ordinary people wouldn't even be able to step into the sacred tower. It could be said that once they entered the sacred tower, their safety was guaranteed. Big Brother Long, I'll come and play with you later. The genius girl, Yi Ziwei, smiled and waved at Long Yu. She seemed bright and cheerful. The smile on her fair and tender face was intoxicating and charming. Long Yu paused for a moment and then nodded. He turned around and left with Xing Fa. Long Yu naturally admired Black Knife and Yi Ziwei. After all, the two of them were only 15 or 16 years old, but they were already experts in the late stage of the Emperor realm. They were extremely terrifying. Yi Ziwei seemed to be very easy to talk to now and looked like a very innocent girl. However, Long Yu knew that killing her way to the 28th floor of the fantasy world of the Five Emperors was definitely not something an innocent girl could do. Qin Yashuang and Zi Su bid farewell to Yi Ziwei and then followed Long Yu into the sacred tower with Long Yu. The entire white, sacred tower emitted a majestic and holy aura. It made people feel a strong sense of security. The moment they stepped in, the wind and clouds changed. Xing Fa directly made a hand seal and sent Long Yu, Qin Yashuang, and Zi Su to an unknown number of floors. This was actually an extremely vast space. This space didn't just have residences and courtyards. There were also cultivation rooms, alchemy rooms, weapon refinement pavilions, and so on. Everything was gathered together to form a small manor. This is another space opened up inside the sacred tower. Long Yu was shocked by the scene in front of him. That's right. Xing Fa stood in front of Long Yu and said with a smile, "You should familiarize yourself with the environment here first. This jade slip has a seal that directly leads to this floor. It can let you leave the sacred tower from here or enter the sacred tower. Learn it first. Also, this independent space of yours is located on the 1560th floor of the Holy Tower. There are 10 cultivation arrays on it, known as the Astral Soul Array. These arrays can connect this independent space with the stars in outer space, increasing the natural cultivation speed of a martial cultivator by at least 100 times. Moreover, at certain special moments, the cultivation speed will explode to 1,000 times or even 10,000 times. This depends on the orbit of the stars in outer space, which even we cannot predict. Following the explanation of the punishment, Long Yu, Qin Yashuang, and Zisu's hearts were filled with shock. Star solar rays? This was a powerful existence that was not weaker than the glorious sun array in the glorious sun inn. If the usual cultivation speed was increased by 100 times, it would be equivalent to the glorious sun array. If there was a suitable orbit of the stars, the cultivation speed could even be increased to 1,000 times, 10,000 times. What kind of terrifying cultivation speed was this? There were a total of 10 cultivation arrays in this space, which meant that 10 people could cultivate here at the same time. It was obvious that the benefits of becoming a personal disciple of the Five Emperors were extremely tempting. Just these 10 cultivation arrays alone. Even if the glorious sun in charge of fee, each star soul array would cost 10,000 Shinbi per day. 10 of them would be 100,000 Shinbi, which was 3 million a month. After becoming a personal disciple of the Five Emperors, there would be no shortage of Shinbi. In addition, there is a mission board in the center of the cultivation room. On the board, the missions issued by the Alliance of Five Emperors are recorded. Of course, the missions that will appear in front of you are the ones that have been deleted and are more difficult. However, the corresponding rewards are also very high. Even if you become Shifu's personal disciple, you won't get free pills or martial skills. You can only earn them through your own hard work. Xing Fa pointed at the cultivation room in the center. Sure enough, there was a floating crystal board outside the cultivation room, which should be the mission board he was talking about. The alchemy room has the best alchemy furnaces and other equipment in the entire Shenwu world. The equipment in the weaponsmithing pavilion is also the best in Shenwu world. Furthermore, if you want to invite others here, you will have to register with Elder Morong at the bottom of the sacred tower. Otherwise, this place will not be open to anyone else. After explaining these things, Xing Fa formed a hand seal and disappeared in front of Long Yu's group of 3. Within the sacred tower, Hand seals are the most basic operation. They can be used to manipulate the power of space within the sacred tower, allowing you to go wherever you want. Of course, this is only limited to within the sacred tower. Long didn't care where Xing Fa went. Right now, he couldn't wait to digest what he gained from the fantasy world of the Five Emperors a few days ago. You two ladies, do as you please. I'm going to cultivate for a while, Long Yu said to Qin Yashuang and Zisu. Then, he flew towards a cultivation room. He quickly entered the cultivation room and disappeared from the two women's line of sight. The two girls looked at each other and could only smile bitterly. This Senior Long really is a cultivation maniac. They still wanted to thank Long Yu, but they didn't expect that before they could even express their gratitude, Long Yu had already entered the cultivation formation to cultivate. Are we going to cultivate as well? Or? Zisu asked in a low voice. It was obvious that she was also looking forward to the Star Soul formation within the Sacred Tower. We'll wait for Senior Long to come out first. Qin Yashuang suppressed the impulse in her heart. If we're sure to follow Senior Long, there's no need to rush to cultivate. We have to help Senior Long with other chores first. Before Xing Fa left, he gave them 2 jade slips, which recorded the hand seals to enter and exit the Sacred Tower. As long as the two girls understood these hand seals, they would be able to enter and exit the Sacred Tower freely. It was worth mentioning that these 2 jade slips were one-time use jade slips, which meant that as long as they were opened with divine will once, the recorded contents would all disappear. And after Qin Yashuang and Zisu learned the cultivation method of the hand seals, because of some mysterious power that targeted the soul imprint, they couldn't be taught to outsiders. Once the two girls had this thought, the power would erase the hand seals from their memories, and even they would forget about the hand seals. This was the magical method of the alliance of 5 emperors. In the Star Soul formation, Long Yu was ready to break through. After going through so many battles, his 5 Daos realm cultivation was already very stable. If he broke through now, he wouldn't have to worry about his power being unstable. 6 Daos Divine Ability Realm. Let me see what my 6th divine ability is. Chapter 799. As the boundless spiritual chi of heaven and earth was absorbed into Long Yu's body to refine the 6th death seed, the form of the seed began to change continuously. This was the process of forming the divine ability fruit. Once it was completed, the final form would represent what Long Yu's innate divine ability looked like. For example, Long Yu's first divine ability fruit was a white bone arm. The second divine ability fruit had turned into a 5-colored light pillar. The third divine ability fruit was a dragon of 9 underworlds that could spit out dragon breath, and so on. There's not enough spiritual chi. Long Yu continued to absorb several great desolate-level upper-grade elixirs. As he absorbed more and more spiritual chi of heaven and earth, the 6th divine ability fruit changed faster and faster. Soon, the form of the divine ability fruit gradually turned into a pitch-black figure holding a machete, causing Long Yu to frown slightly. What is this pitch-black figure? What is the use of my 6th divine ability? Not long after, the 6th divine ability fruit was completely formed. As expected, it was a black figure holding 2 machetes. It was as if it had walked out of hell, exuding an aura of death. As the divine ability fruit was completely formed, a powerful force was emitted from the divine ability fruit. It swept across Long Yu's body, refining his entire body once again. 6 Daos Divine Ability Realm. Long Yu's martial Dao realm had reached a higher level. The basic power in his body had also been refined by the power emitted from the divine ability fruit. It had increased by at least 2 times. In the real world, without the inexhaustible power, Long Yu could only deal with opponents in the middle stage of the King realm at most. If it was said that when Long Yu was in the 5 Daos divine realm, he would still feel some pressure when fighting against a middle stage of the King realm. But now that he had stepped into the 6 Daos divine realm, to him, cultivators in the middle stage of the King realm were nothing. In the process of breaking through, the formation of the 6th divine ability fruit was far from the biggest change in Long Yu's body. As the god's ability fruit took shape, Long Yu vaguely sensed an extremely mysterious power forming in the middle of his 6 god's ability fruits and 1 god's ability seed. It condensed into a small dot. From this small dot, Long Yu could feel a rich spatial energy, as well as some kind of explosive feeling that was ready to explode, which made him pleasantly surprised. This is the embryonic form of the seed of the world that the Death Messenger mentioned. If you want to step into the King Path mystic realm, you must first condense a world seed in your body, then use a strong enough spiritual chi to detonate the world seed, and finally open up an inner world in your body. Only then can you finally step into the King Path mystic realm and start to borrow the power of the inner world. But now, the embryonic form of a world seed had been born in Long Yu's body. This made Long Yu inexplicably happy. As long as the embryonic form was born, everything would be fine. As long as he used more spiritual chi to refine it, it would eventually become a complete world seed. When he stepped into the 7 Taoist divinity realm and used enough spiritual chi to detonate the world seed, Long Yu could directly step into the King Path mystic realm. When the embryonic form of the world seed appeared in Long Yu's body, it meant that Long Yu could step into the King Path mystic realm at any time, as long as he was willing. However, for the time being, Long Yu did not plan to break through. After all, he had just stepped into the 6 Taoist divinity realm, and his realm was not stable yet. If he broke through now, there might be some unexpected side effects. Let's try the effect of the 6 god's ability first, then start refining the world seed. Without any hesitation, Long Yu stood up and conjured an ancient desolate shadow. Then, he used the 9 nether divine characters to activate the 6th god's ability seed, which was the black figure holding a scimitar in his dantian. Then, Long Yu saw the 9 nether divine characters quickly condense in front of him, and soon formed a figure that looked exactly like the god's ability seed. This figure was completely formed by the 9 nether divine characters. It did not seem to have a body, nor did it have a face. Only the 2 scimitars in its hands gave off an endless cold aura. Kill. With a thought from Long Yu, the black figure suddenly disappeared from where it was, and then appeared behind Long Yu's ancient shadow, one of the scimitars slashing down. The ancient shadow directly condensed a fallen dark star to defend itself. Unfortunately, each ancient shadow in the real world only had 1% of Long Yu's energy. Condensing 10 fallen dark stars was completely exhausted, and even 10 fallen dark stars could not stop the scimitar slashing down. The ancient shadow was directly slashed into pieces by the black scimitar figure. Amazing! Long Yu laughed, and a name jumped out of his heart. Then I'll call you 9 Nether Hunter. I didn't expect the 6 god's ability seed to be such a summoning method. If I can step into the King Realm mid-stage, I can casually summon 8 or 10 9 Nether Hunters. Although these 9 Nether Hunters can't use the power of the space divine characters, their speed is extremely fast and much stronger than the Ancient Shadow. The 6th god's ability, 9 Nether Hunter. Then, with a thought from Long Yu, the 9 Nether Hunter directly dissipated as if it had never appeared. Now, after summoning 1 9 Nether Hunter, he had to wait for an hour before summoning another. He could not summon them without a limit, and without the support of the inner world, the total amount of energy Long Yu had was still too little. Using every method once would consume almost all of it. Let's not worry about this for now. I'll first refine the embryonic form of the world seed. For ordinary martial cultivators, refining a world seed would definitely take a long time. For example, Olden, who Long Yu had met before, had already condensed a world seed, but refining it and causing it to explode into an inner world took a total of 100 years. It was only with the help of Long Yu's Shunbi that he managed to buy enough pills to break through. Not everyone was like Long Yu, who had no lack of heaven and earth spiritual energy. Of course, Long Yu had still underestimated the amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy needed to refine a world seed. He kept taking great desolate grade high rank pills, and even after eating all 300 of them, he still couldn't completely refine a world seed. It had to be known that Long Yu's heavenly pivot chi drawing had already reached the transcendent realm. Not only had his basic cultivation speed doubled, but the effects of pills were also increased by 60%. In other words, it was equivalent to Long Yu taking more than 500 Great Desolate Grade High rank pills and still couldn't refine a world seed. It had to be known that these 500 Great Desolate Grade High rank pills were worth at least 1,000,000 shinbi. In a place like the North Snow Empire, not to mention a martial cultivator like Olden, even the Dragon Mansion's crown Prince Long Yao would find it extremely difficult to obtain so many pills. Since young, how many cultivation resources did these geniuses spend on their respective forces? Innumerable. This was the only way for them to step into the Emperor's Path mystic realm at a very young age. Of course, this amount of resources was nothing to the forces in the holy city of the five emperors. For example, the Qin family, due to the death of the Gongsun family's young master, had casually paid 800,000 shinbi as compensation. Although it pained them, they could still afford it. In comparison, the forces in the North Snow Empire were much more miserable. It wasn't that they didn't have 1,000,000 shinbi, but even if they did, they couldn't buy hundreds of Great Desolate Grade High rank pills. Only in the holy city of the five emperors would there be such a variety of pills. It still doesn't work. Long Yu was a little disappointed. He looked at the world seed in the center of his dantian, which was already a little green, and shook his head. It seemed like there was no need to tinker with this thing for the time being. He wasn't in a hurry to break into the Emperor's Path mystic realm anyway. Condensing the world seed now wouldn't be of much help to Long Yu's strength. It was useless. Apart from a few supreme grade pills, all the Great Desolate grade pills have been used up. It seems like I still don't have enough pills on me. Even with the ancient grade pills and the special crystals from the exotic beasts, it's only enough for me to step into the middle stage king realm. If I want to cultivate the secret martial arts techniques and have a balanced control, it's even more insufficient. It seems like I have to find a way to get more. Long Yu thought to himself. At the same time, he also knew that the ancient Dragon Bone Tower was no longer essential to him. If he couldn't find 1,000 divine rune crystals as soon as possible and repair the ancient Dragon Bone Tower, then it would become useless to him. The ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower could only withstand the attack of a late-stage King Realm exotic beast for a short while. If he didn't repair it into an ancient grade combat weapon, it could be completely destroyed at any time. Then my next goal is set. I have to find a way to get 1,000 divine text crystals. Moreover, I've already promised the Death Envoy that I'll go to the exotic beast fortress alone. Let's get ready to go. Long Yu quickly made up his mind to go to the exotic beast fortress alone. With the Book of Shadows' heaven-defying disguise ability, the chances of Long Yu running into danger would be very low. Then, Long Yu observed his surroundings. The astral soul formation in the cultivation room was completely engraved on the walls. It constantly emitted dense heaven and earth spiritual chi and attracted the power of the stars from beyond the heavens. It was extremely beneficial to cultivators' cultivation. It's nighttime. It seems like the astral soul formation is changing a little. Long Yu discovered the changes after observing the astral soul formation for a while. He was pleasantly surprised. Could it be that the special time Xing Fa mentioned had arrived? Long Yu could feel that the heaven and earth spiritual energy in the cultivation room was gathering more and more, and the speed at which it condensed was getting faster and faster. Soon, Long Yu's cultivation speed increased to 200 times, then 300 times, 400 times, 1,000 times, 1,500 times. Long Yu immediately sat down in the cultivation room. He didn't want to waste such a rare opportunity. 1,500 times cultivation speed meant that every hour he cultivated was equivalent to consuming a Great Desolate grade pill. Chapter 800. When Long Yu was cultivating in the 1,560th level of the Sacred Tower, the entire Five Emperors' holy city had changed because of him. Stepping onto the 30th level of the Five Emperors' illusion realm meant that Long Yu was a peerless genius. When he became the personal disciple of the Red Emperor, it wouldn't take long for him to become one of the strongest people in the world. In the Five Emperors' holy city, other than the 6 sects and 10 countries, there were many other forces, such as second-rate sects like the Ninth Sun sect and third-rate families like the Gongsun family and the Qin family. All of them wanted to befriend Long Yu. If they could obtain a favorable impression from Long Yu, then the future development of their respective powers would become even faster and better. Befriending a powerhouse for a family or sect would ultimately have many benefits. This was especially true when this expert had yet to truly mature. Many people were thinking that if they came to befriend Long Yu at this time and gave him a gift, it would definitely make Long Yu remember him, right? Although it couldn't be considered as providing timely help, it was still better than doing nothing. Moreover, who knew what Long Yu's personality was like? There was no harm in giving some gifts to befriend him now. Therefore, when Long Yu came out of the 5 Emperor fantasy realms, the entire Sacred Tower was surrounded by people who wanted to give him gifts. Of course, the people who wanted to give gifts to Long Yu were not the only ones who wanted to give gifts to him. They also wanted to give Black Knife and Yi Ziwei a share. However, could the gifts for Black Knife and Yi Ziwei be the same as those for Long Yu? If they were the same, what if Long Yu objected? If they were different, what if Black Knife and Yi Ziwei objected? Therefore, these people could only give gifts in 2 batches. Their first choice was undoubtedly to give gifts to Long Yu. The difference between the 30th level and the 28th level was huge. Historically, those who were able to set foot on the 30th floor of the 5 Emperors fantasy world could at least become the first disciple of the 5 Emperors. Even if they couldn't inherit the position of the 5 Emperors, they could still enter the cabinet of the Alliance of 5 Emperors as an elder. The cabinet elders of the Alliance of 5 Emperors in the entire Shenwu world, aside from the 5 Emperors, they are the most powerful people. There are currently over 20 of them, each of them holding a lot of power, no less than the masters of the 6 sects and 10 countries. Even though Long Yu only had 5 divine powers, there were still many people who were willing to make long-term investments. At this moment, Qin Yashuang and Zi Su were in the guest hall of the Sacred Tower. They were representing Long Yu to receive groups of people from the 5 Emperors' holy city who wanted to meet Long Yu. The 2 girls had already received a lot of gifts. After sending away an elder from a second-rate sect who was about as strong as the Ninth Sun sect, the 2 girls signaled the guards to bring in the next person. When the next group of people came in, the expressions on the 2 girls' faces became a bit interesting, because the person who came in was the head of the Qin family. He was Qin Yashuang's father, as well as a few of her older brothers. They were all wearing golden armor with a harp engraved on it, indicating their status. "Where is Master Long? Why are you here?" Qin Yashuang's father, the head of the Qin family, Qin Changyu, stepped into the guest hall and saw the 2 girls sitting on the main seats. He couldn't help but frown. He had brought his sons to the Sanctum's conference hall to pay a visit to Long Yu. However, he had not expected to see his own daughter and her maidservant. "Master Long is currently in closed-door cultivation. I'm afraid he can't come to receive you." Qin Yashuang looked at her father and smiled faintly. "Yashuang." Qin Changyu carefully looked at Qin Yashuang and immediately showed a gratified expression. "You've finally grown up and have your own opinions. Not bad, not bad. Are you now Master Long's woman?" In his opinion, Qin Yashuang and Zi Su were so loyal to Long Yu because they already knew how powerful Long Yu was. If that was the case, then they might have already become Long Yu's. If that was the case, then their Qin family was going to prosper. With a genius like Long Yu, they were destined to become the strongest person in the entire Shenwu world. However, what he couldn't understand was how Qin Yashuang's expression changed when she heard this. "Qin Changyu, what kind of person do you think your daughter is?" Qin Yashuang stood up and stared at her father. It was this man who ignored her and Zi Su's objections and insisted on sending her and Zi Su to Nine Sun's sect to marry Lan Shuyan. If it wasn't for them trying to save themselves and coincidentally meeting Long Yu at the Sunshine Inn, they might have already become Lan Shuyan's. And because Lan Shuyan was defeated by Long Yu in the 5 Emperors' illusion realm, did they still need to hope that Lan Shuyan would treat them well? All along, Lan Shuyan was rumored to be a bad person. Now that the five emperors suffered a great defeat in the illusion realm, he was in a bad mood and would definitely do anything. As a father, he didn't care about her at all, but he even wanted to push her into the fire pit in exchange for the so-called family glory. Qin Yashuang had long been disappointed in such a father. Seeing that you are my father, I will accept your gifts on behalf of Master Long and put in a good word for the Qin family in front of him. You can leave now. Qin Yashuang didn't want to talk to Qin Changyu anymore and said directly, Sister, you are too presumptuous. Next to Qin Changyu was a young cultivator who looked similar to Qin Changyu. He stood up and shouted at Qin Yashuang, Do you think that you can be rude to your father, to your brother, and to your family just because you have a genius? My father? My brother? My family? Qin Yashuang sneered and retorted, Ever since I was young, besides my mother, what have you given me? Cultivation resources never. Bullshit. Another young cultivator stood up and pointed at Qin Yashuang. Ever since you were young, it has always been the Qin family that protected you. Without the Qin family, you are nothing. Everything I have now has nothing to do with the Qin family. Qin Yashuang said indifferently, Zi Su and I are like sisters. You don't know how many difficulties we have gone through, how many times we have faced life and death together. I have never taken the Qin family's cultivation resources, but my cultivation has reached King Realm. My brothers, you have wasted so many cultivation resources of the Qin family. What realm are you at now? These words made the youths of the Qin family turn red. In the past, they had always looked down on Qin Yashuang because she was a girl. Because of Qin Changyu's arrangement of cultivation resources, they had always had the best cultivation resources of the Qin family. But Qin Yashuang could only rely on her mother to get some cultivation resources. Everything else was fought for by Qin Yashuang herself. It had nothing to do with the Qin family. Qin Yashuang's oldest brother was almost 40 years old, but he was only at the late stage of King Realm. There was no one in the younger generation of the Qin family who had reached Emperor Realm. Okay, you should leave. If you have any gifts, leave them, Qin Yashuang said indifferently. As for her own family, when she encountered a life and death crisis several times in the mission of exterminating bandits, she had long lost any sense of belonging. She still cared about the Qin family, just because her mother was still in the Qin family. After this, she would ask Long Yu to bring her mother to the sacred tower. She didn't need to occupy the 10 cultivation rooms. She just wanted to give her a stable living environment. It was better than being bullied in the Qin family. Ah, Yashuang. Qin Changyu raised his hand and stopped his sons from talking. He sighed and said, You are my daughter after all. I welcome you to come back to the Qin family anytime. This is an ancient low-grade pill. I don't need to say more about its value. Your brothers have never consumed a pill of this grade. Now, I'm giving it to you as compensation. After saying this, he threw out a small medicine bottle, turned around, and was about to leave with his sons. This scene stunned Qin Yashuang. That's it. He didn't give Senior Long a gift. However, the moment Qin Changyu turned around, his eyes revealed a trace of a smile. Qin Yashuang saw it, and she immediately understood. Now this old man was playing the emotional card. Qin Changyu didn't need to please Long Yu. He only needed to please his daughter. Therefore, Qin Changyu directly gave the ancient low-grade pills that he had prepared for Long Yu to Qin Yashuang in the name of compensation. If they were flowers that grew up in a greenhouse, they might have been touched by Qin Changyu. Unfortunately, Qin Yashuang and Zi Su had been through many cruel battlefields and experienced many killings. The two women had seen through human nature, especially Qin Changyu. This kind of guy, how could they expect him to repent at the end? Zi Su, after everything here is over, put on a show with me. We will go back to the Qin family to pick up my mother and pretend that we don't follow Senior Long anymore. I want to see what kind of attitude this old man will have towards us. Qin Yashuang said to Zi Su with a smile. Hearing this, Zi Chui immediately nodded. Okay. I love acting and doing bad things the most. Then, the two women continued to receive the gifts from the various forces that wanted to give Long Yu gifts. The Gongsun family, Nine Sun sect, the 3 big trading companies, and even the 6 sects and 10 countries all sent gifts. They all want to make friends of Long Yu. Among them, the Gongsun family directly took out 2 million Shinbi. 800,000 of them were to be returned to the Qin family. It showed their sincerity. However, Qin Yashuang felt that she could see a trace of darkness in the Gongsun family's patriarch's eyes. Senior Long killed his son, and he still came to give gifts? I'm afraid there's something wrong with this. Qin Yashuang didn't think too much about it. She just needed to tell Long Yu about it. Lan Shuyin personally came to the Nine Sons sect, but he was forced to come by his master. After saying a few words, he left behind a low-ranked ancient combat weapon and left in a hurry. To Lan Shuyin, this kind of thing was really shameful, especially since he didn't even see Long Yu. He only saw the 2 women who were supposed to be married to him but were ravaged by him, and he even had to lower his voice in front of them. Young miss, I saw that Lan Shuyin was very unhappy when he left. Zisu looked at Lan Shuyin and the others leaving the meeting hall and couldn't help but laugh. I think so too. Chapter 801. Long Yu stayed in the astral spirit formation for an entire night. That night, the density of the heaven and earth spirit chi in the astral spirit formation soared to tens of thousands of times that of the outside world. This allowed Long Yu to absorb an immeasurable amount of heaven and earth spirit chi in one night. This dense heaven and earth spiritual energy was equivalent to consuming several ancient lower-grade elixirs. To anyone, it would be a huge leap. For Long Yu, it was the same. After a night of cultivation, he had spent all of his spirit chi on this. Finally, he had completely condensed the world seed. The world seed that had taken shape was a green dot of light. It was filled with the aura of divine characters of various attributes. Space, life, light, shadow, ice, flame. The aura of the 8 divine characters came from the green dot of light, but Long Yu couldn't capture them. Sure enough, only after stepping into the King Path arcane realm can I use some heavenly treasures to make myself compatible with the divine text of another attribute. It looks like I'm just using the heavenly treasures to stimulate the compatibility between myself and the divine text of that attribute through the world seed. Long Yu thought to himself, many King Path Secret Land elites would be compatible with 2 or more divine characters. This was because the world seed had already been born in their bodies, and they had even transformed it into an inner world. As long as some special treasures were used to activate it, the cultivator could be compatible with more divine characters. However, this was still too far away for him, so there was no need to think about it for now. Let's go take a look at the mission board. The internal missions of the Alliance of 5 Emperors are specially selected for the personal disciples of the 5 Emperors. It must be very challenging, and there should be a lot of rewards. After Long Yu finished thinking, he stood up and left the cultivation room. However, before he walked to the mission board, he saw Qin Yashuang and Su come in to greet him. It seemed that the 2 of them had been waiting for a while. Senior Long, we just accepted many gifts on your behalf at the Sacred Towers meeting hall. Qin Yashuang bowed slightly and said to Long Yu respectfully, you won't blame us, right? We just thought that Senior Dragon might not want to waste time on this. Of course I won't blame you. Instead, I have to thank you for saving me some time. Long Yu smiled and shook his head. Which forces sent me gifts? Tell me. Yes. Qin Yashuang nodded. She took out the gifts from the various forces from her space combat weapon and started to explain them one by one. The value of the gifts given by the ordinary powers wasn't that high, but they were at least high-ranked Great Desolate grade combat weapons, which were worth tens of thousands of Shinbi. There were also some Great Desolate grade medicinal pellets that were packaged as gifts. Too bad. Long Yu had already consumed each of them more than 3 times, so they were useless to him. The Gongsun clan sent over 2 million Shinbi, but I saw that the Gongsun clan's clan master had a dark look in his eyes when he left. Perhaps he didn't really come here to send the gifts. Qin Yashuang thought about it for a while and added in her own speculations. When she was carrying out dangerous missions, she had seen many similar things, so she was more cautious about this. However, she was a little afraid of being punished by Long Yu. After all, she was not very clear about Long Yu's personality. Yes, you're quite observant. Long Yu smiled and nodded. I killed the Gongsun clan's young master. So how could the Gongsun clan's clan master send me a gift? Moreover, he knew that giving me a gift wouldn't make me cooperate with the Gongsun clan. Since that's the case, there's only one purpose for him to give me a gift: to clear himself of suspicion. Clear himself of suspicion? Qin Yishuang heard him and frowned. Senior Long, are you saying that the Gongsun clan wants to assassinate you? Most likely, but I'm not afraid. Long Yu waved his hand. There are other forces. What about Nine Sun sect? Qin Yishuang saw that Long Yu didn't seem to care, so she stopped worrying. She knew that Long Yu was a man who could create miracles. She could see that from the Battle of the Five Emperors. He was a man who could step into the 30th level of the Five Emperors fantasy world. Why wouldn't Qin Yishuang believe in Long Yu? Lan Shuyin came personally and apologized to Senior Long. He also gave you a low-grade ancient combat weapon. As Qin Yishuang spoke, she took out the cloak and said, according to him, this is a low-grade ancient battle weapon. It's a gift from a Nine Sun sect to show their sincerity. It seems to have quite a bit of spatial power. Yes. Long Yu took the golden cloak and looked it over, then shook his head. This cloak is not bad, but it doesn't suit my style. The golden color is too dazzling. He had always been an assassin. If he used a weapon that wasn't suitable for him, it would have the opposite effect. This cloak was too eye-catching, and it didn't suit Long Yu's style. Next are the gifts from the 6 sects and 10 countries. Their gifts are quite special. Many of them are ancient pills from their own forces. Some are low-grade, some are mid-grade. There are 25 types in total. Take a look. Qin Yishuang then took out a big box. There were dozens of pill bottles inside, and they were all ancient pills. There were more than 100 of them, and there were 25 types of pills. There were 3 to 5 pills of each type. And these ancient-grade medicinal pills were what Long Yu truly needed. Not bad. These are good things. Long Yu was quite surprised. He didn't think that stepping into the 30th level of the Five Emperors fantasy world would bring him such benefits. He asked, which ones are from the Tai Wu Empire? Long Yu was quite concerned about the Tai Wu Empire. Obviously, the Tai Wu Empire knew something, and it wasn't good news for him. Because of this, he was willing to become the direct disciple of the Red Emperor and join the Tai Wu Empire. For the time being, only by joining the alliance of 5 emperors could he guard against the Tai Wu Empire's plots. Of course, even if he joined the alliance of 5 emperors, Long Yu didn't think that he was foolproof. It was impossible to put himself in an absolutely safe situation. Only by constantly improving his strength could he make himself relatively safe. The Tai Wu Empire sent this. Qin Yishuang took out a beast crystal from another place. It's a special crystal of the Emperor's stage. It's the same as the one you took out, Senior Long. Oh. Long Yu was a little surprised. It was a special crystal of the Emperor's stage. To be honest, this gift was quite good, and it was very useful to him. Before stepping into the illusion dimension of the 5 emperors, the old man of the Tai Wu Empire, Tai Wu Abyss, came to recruit Long Yu. The condition he proposed was that Long Yu hand over the special crystal of the Emperor's stage. Now, this old man had sent someone to deliver the special crystal of the Emperor's stage. It was obvious that he was telling Long Yu that the Tai Wu Empire didn't lack cultivation resources at all. Rejecting the Tai Wu Empire's recruitment was definitely a loss for Long Yu. Long Yu didn't think too much about it. He carefully examined the special crystal and put it away. It would be a waste if he didn't take something good. With this, he had a total of 3 special crystals of the Emperor's stage. Each of these special crystals contained pure spiritual energy equivalent to 5 times that of a middle-grade ancient medicinal pill. This was a huge fortune. For this, Long Yu seemed to really have to thank the Tai Wu Abyss. But in reality, did Long Yu need to be deeply grateful to him and shed tears of gratitude? There was no need. For Long Yu, most of these crystals were picked up. He only needed to wait until he died and use half a year to recover. Then, he could rob another strange beast fortress. At that time, he definitely wouldn't be lacking in special crystals. In addition to this, we also heard from Big Brother Xing Fa that when the Red Emperor returns, he will officially accept you as his personal disciple. At that time, you will receive even more precious gifts. Qin Yashuang continued. Thank you both. Long Yu nodded and then suddenly asked, may I know what the two of you plan to do in the future? Hearing this question, Qin Yashuang and Zi Su looked at each other and then said in unison, follow Senior Long. In that case, you don't need to call me Senior. Have you ever seen a senior with a lower cultivation than you? Long Yu smiled and waved his hand. Just call me by my name. Then, I will still call you Big Brother Long. Qin Yashuang thought for a while and could only say so. Me too. Zisu also nodded. For the two of them, directly calling Long Yu by his name was too impolite. Luckily, Long Yu was older than them, so calling him Big Brother Long was fine. That's fine too. Hearing this, Long Yu thought of Chi Hua and Man Xian who were still in the North Snow Dynasty. He couldn't help but smile. Since you want to follow me, then don't worry and stay. As for these gifts, use those that are useful to you. If not, give them to me to store. I still have to bring them back to my friends. Big Brother Long, may I ask, where are you from? Qin Yashuang's voice was filled with curiosity. I come from a faraway world, the North Snow Dynasty in the east. You probably haven't heard of it. I have many friends in the North Snow Dynasty. I will go back to visit them in a while. At that time, I still have to bring them some gifts. Long Yu replied. This was not a secret because anyone could come to this conclusion with a simple investigation. North Snow Dynasty? We have really heard of it. Unexpectedly, Qin Yashuang heard this and instantly became happy. I heard that Senior Yuhan Xin also came from the North Snow Dynasty. Big Brother Long is the second genius from the North Snow Dynasty. It seems that the North Snow Dynasty is really powerful, even more powerful than the 6 sects and 10 countries. Even the 6 sects and 10 countries didn't have a genius like Yuhan Xin. In Qin Yashuang's opinion, the North Snow Dynasty must be very powerful. Unfortunately, she was wrong. Long Yu didn't intend to correct her. Anyway, he would bring them back one day. All right, I have something that I want Big Brother Long to help me with. I wonder if Big Brother Long is free? It won't take too long. 4 hours is enough. Qin Yashuang's eyes flashed with expectation as she looked at Long Yu. Tell me about it. I will definitely help if I can. Long Yu nodded and said, go to the Qin family and bring my mother here. We will live a stable life here. Qin Yashuang said, no problem. Long Yu slightly raised the corner of his mouth and nodded. 2 young girls at the initial stage of the King realm who were only 16 or 17 years old. Their martial Dao talent was very good. Moreover, they'd been fighting outside for many years and had experienced countless slaughters. Such people were exactly what Long Yu wanted to recruit. Chapter 802. Before going to the Qin family with Qin Yashuang and Zi Su, Long Yu first checked the mission board in the Sacred Tower. He quickly found that all the missions in the Alliance of 5 Emperors didn't reward items or shunbi, but rather alliance points. Through completing missions, the cultivators of the Alliance of 5 Emperors could obtain alliance points, which they could use to exchange for pills, weapons, martial skills, etc. As long as they had enough alliance points, they could even exchange for ancient martial skills. Of course, when Long Yu checked the information on the mission board, he found that the strongest martial skill reward in the Alliance of 5 Emperors was an ancient low-level martial skill, which was useless to Long Yu. My mission board is a filtered mission board that is specially provided to the direct disciples of the 5 Emperors. The reward for completing the mission is also alliance points, but at the same time, you will also get the corresponding 5 Emperors points. For example, if I complete a mission, I can get some Red Emperor points. Only by using Red Emperor points can I exchange for the real good stuff. Long Yu checked the rewards that could be exchanged with Red Emperor points. It actually included God Rune crystals, ancient high-level pills, ancient mid-level martial skills, etc., a series of things that couldn't be obtained in the outside world. Of course, to exchange for these things, the amount of Red Emperor points required was astronomical. Just the amount of red emperor points needed to exchange for ancient mid-level martial skills was enough to at least complete a few missions of the highest difficulty. And on this mission board, the most difficult mission was to destroy the alien beast's nest. The alien beast fortress that the envoy of death mentioned was called a nest here, but it all had the same meaning. Not only that, half of the missions on a mission board were related to alien beasts. It seemed that for the Alliance of Five Emperors, their main purpose was to deal with the alien beasts that were scattered throughout the Shunwu world. Aside from dealing with alien beasts, there were also many bandit extermination missions. Some of the more difficult missions needed to deal with Emperor Realm bandit leaders, and the rewards were quite good. Unfortunately, these missions were too difficult for the current Long Yu. All the missions in the Alliance of Five Emperors were ranked from 1 star to 7 stars, with 1 star being the easiest and 7 stars being the hardest. However, the missions that were deleted from Long Yu's mission board were all 4 stars. Even the easiest mission has to deal with Emperor Realm Masters and exterminate bandits. How scary. Long Yu sighed. It seemed like he didn't need to bother with the missions on the board for the time being. Perhaps he could only accept some quests related to exotic beasts. With the overpowered disguise thaumaturgy of the Book of Dark Shadows, as well as various stealth abilities, Long Yu had the advantage in scouting. Since he was preparing to break into an alien beast fortress by himself, he could take on some scouting missions and complete them along the way. Aside from this, there were also some donation missions on the board. As long as he donated some cultivation resources, the Alliance of Five Emperors could exchange them for a certain amount of alliance points, as well as the more important Red Emperor points for Long Yu. This mission isn't bad. Long Yu glanced around and saw a mission that seemed to have been piled up for a long time. Alien Beast Information Collection. Once he submitted some unknown alien beast information, whether it was their weakness in battle or their living habits, he would be able to obtain a large amount of alliance points, as well as Red Emperor points. Not bad, not bad, not bad at all. I've earned big this time. Long Yu was overjoyed. Of course, he was overjoyed. When it came to understanding alien beasts, who could compare to the Death Envoy? If he could dig out some information from the Death Envoy and put it in the Alliance of Five Emperors, he would be able to obtain a large amount of points. This way, even if Long Yu wanted to exchange for 1,000 divine rune crystals to repair the Dragon Skeleton Tower, it wouldn't be a difficult task. Of course, Long Yu couldn't openly reveal a large amount of alien beast information. Otherwise, wouldn't he be telling others that he had a lot of secrets hidden here? When the Red Emperor returns, I'll first do a scouting mission and hand over some information. This way, I can maximize the mission rewards. Long Yu had basically decided on his next cultivation goal. But before that, he had to accompany Qin Yashuang and Zi Su back to the Qin family. As for the Qin family, Long Yu didn't have a good impression of them. So after hearing Qin Yashuang's plan, Long Yu immediately agreed. Outside the sacred tower, Qin Yashuang and Zi Su finally left the sacred tower and slowly walked back to the Qin family. They attracted the attention of many people along the way. By now, who didn't know that these two girls had a close relationship with Long Yu? There were even rumors that these two girls were Long Yu's women. Many people greeted the two of them. It could be seen how much respect they had for Long Yu. They even treated Qin Yashuang and Zi Su like this. When they saw Long Yu, what would they be like? Unfortunately, there was no sign of Long Yu behind the two girls. Many people were disappointed. The two girls walked straight to the Qin family. This news quickly spread to the ears of the Qin family. Everyone, including the Qin family head, actively prepared. Of course, they had to prepare. Qin Yashuang and Zi Su were now the people around the genius Long Yu. Since the two girls were willing to return to the Qin family, it was obvious that they were willing to accept the Qin family, right? Once they managed to rope in Qin Yashuang and Zi Su, they wouldn't have to worry about their relationship with Long Yu. Regarding this, many people in the Qin family felt sullen. Qin Yashuang was obviously the daughter of the family head, but now they had to mobilize everyone to rope in her. It could be seen that the Qin family head, Qin Changyu, was a failure as a father. However, The people in the Qin family also knew that they had no choice. Who asked them to treat Qin Yashuang and Zi Su so badly? The root cause of all this was that Qin Yashuang's mother was a lover that Qin Changyu had brought back. Qin Changyu's first wife had given birth to 5 sons for him. Naturally, Qin Changyu liked her. As for Qin Yashuang's mother, she was very beautiful when she was young. Unfortunately, after giving birth to Qin Yashuang, she got very sick. She became very haggard. She took a lot of pills, but they couldn't cure her. Therefore, Qin Changyu quickly distanced himself from her. Qin Changyu would never have thought that one day he would need Qin Yashuang's help. However, as long as he could get in touch with Long Yu and beg his daughter, so what? Young lady is back. Very quickly, someone shouted at the entrance of the Qin family's luxurious residence. Then, everyone stood neatly in the Qin family's residence. Qin Changyu even brought Qin Yashuang's mother out. He let her sit on a chair and ordered people to take good care of her. When Qin Yashuang and Zi Su stepped into the Qin family, they saw such a scene, which surprised them. Yashuang, you are back. Qin Changyu took off his golden armor and put on a casual robe. He had a smile on his face, which made him look very kind. Qin Yashuang's mother, who was sitting next to him, was a slightly old woman. Seeing this scene, she was very happy. She had no achievements in the martial path in her life, and after giving birth to Qin Yashuang, she had even gotten seriously ill. The only thing she wanted in her life was to receive Qin Changyu's care. Now, because her daughter had become a servant of a genius young man, she finally got what she wanted. Therefore, the woman had a happy smile on her face. Qin Yashuang nodded at Qin Changyu's greeting. Then, she looked at her mother, the slightly old woman, and said, "Mother, I want to send you to live in the sacred tower. There might be a strong person who can cure your illness." As soon as these words came out, the woman's eyes immediately flashed with hope. Cure the illness? Originally, she didn't have any hope, but if it was the alliance of 5 emperors, it might be possible to cure her illness. If she could cure her illness, thinking about this, the woman raised her head hesitantly and looked at Qin Changyu, her man. In the Qin family, everyone listened to Qin Changyu. If Qin Changyu didn't agree, she wouldn't be able to leave. Hearing Qin Yashuang's words, Qin Changyu was in a dilemma. To be honest, he didn't want Qin Yashuang's mother to leave. Only with her, Qin Yashuang could come back to the Qin family. However, Qin Yashuang's reason of curing her illness was something that Qin Changyu couldn't reject. Okay. As long as you want it, it's fine. Qin Changyu waved his hand and said, "Daughter, father has indeed let you down. However, let bygones be bygones. I didn't fulfill my responsibility. Let me slowly make up for it in the future, okay?" Qin Yashuang nodded and then waved her hand. Seeing this, Zisu walked forward and pushed Qin Yashuang's mother's chair. Then, she turned around and walked out of the Qin family mansion. She didn't look reluctant at all. Qin Changyu wanted to ask her to stay, but seeing that Qin Yashuang didn't follow, he didn't act impulsively. "Father, actually, the situation has changed." Qin Yashuang felt that Zi Su had pushed her mother far away. Then, she looked at Qin Changyu and said, "Long Yu is going to follow the Red Emperor to gain experience. As for me and Zi Su, we were chased away by Long Yu. He doesn't need us by his side anymore. So, I'm here to say goodbye to you. You won't see me and Zi Su again, and you won't see my mother again." When he said this, Qin Changyu was still thinking about how to make it up to Qin Yashuang so that she would change her mind. But after he said this, Qin Changyu's face turned black. She was actually chased away by Long Yu? This disappointing lass. Beside Qin Changyu, the other Qin family members felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. They looked at Qin Yashuang coldly. Among them, Qin Changyu's 40-year-old son suddenly laughed. "Haha, weren't you very proud? Weren't you disrespectful to our Qin family in the Sacred Tower meeting room? Now you're getting your retribution. Haha." Chapter 803. When Qin Yashuang said that she would no longer follow Long Yu, everyone's face changed. Qin Changyu's face darkened. His daughter had been driven away by Long Yu. Didn't that mean that the Qin family had lost the best chance to make friends with Long Yu? You lost Long Yu. Logically, you should be punished. Qin Changyu said, but you are my daughter. I can't bear to see you and your mother suffer outside. Bring your mother back and let her continue to live in the Qin family. But in exchange, you must marry the genius of Nine Sons sect, Lan Shuyan. Qin Changyu wasn't the only one who said this. His sons, Qin Yashuang's brothers, also said the same thing. After all, if Qin Yashuang no longer followed Long Yu, she would have no value to the Qin family. Since they were going to raise Qin Yashuang, they naturally had to make her do something for the Qin family. Marrying Lan Shuyan of Nine Sons sect would be considered a contribution. I said that I only came back to take my mother away. I won't stay in the Qin family anymore. When Qin Yashuang heard the Qin family's laughter and Qin Changyu's request, her heart was like dead ashes. Originally, she still had a trace of hope for the Qin family, but now it seemed that it was too stupid. The Qin family was a bunch of idiots. I'm afraid it's not up to you. Qin Changyu snorted and waved his hand. A few Emperor Realm elders of the Qin family flew out and surrounded Qin Yashuang. It seemed like they wanted to capture her. Without Long Yu's support, in the eyes of the Qin family, you're just an early-stage King Realm girl. What is there to be proud of? Qin Changyu's eldest son snorted. Wait until you marry Lan Shuyan. You must not lose face for the Qin family. Otherwise, I will hold you responsible. Does the Qin family still have face? At this moment, a light laugh came from outside the Qin family's mansion. Then, a young man in black walked in with a smile and walked towards Qin Yashuang. This young man was Long Yu. This time, Long Yu had seen the true colors of the Qin family clearly. Staying in such a family for more than 10 years was really tough for Qin Yashuang. Luckily, she had a tough personality and she had persevered. Not only that, she had relied on self-reliance and self-improvement to break through to the initial stage of the King Realm. It was needless to say how many difficulties she had encountered. This made Long Yu like Qin Yashuang even more. It wasn't love between a man and a woman, but it was like caring for a sister. Seeing the Qin family dare to stop Qin Yashuang from leaving, Long Yu came. Immediately, Yu appeared. When Long Yu's figure appeared, everyone from the Qin clan was shocked. When they saw Long Yu walking towards Qin Yashuang and comforting her, they hated Qin Yashuang even more. This woman actually lied to them. Long Yu didn't chase her away, but she purposely put on such a show to fool them. She was too hateful. Qin Yashuang, you tricked us. Qin Zhongyu's eldest son was the most shocked. He was the first one to make things difficult for Qin Yashuang. Naturally, he couldn't accept the truth. I just wanted to see your true colors. Qin Yashuang stood next to Long Yu and strangely felt safe. Long Yu was only at 6 realms. She raised her head and looked at Qin Changyu and her so-called brothers with a smile of relief on her face. But from today onwards, I won't have to see you people anymore. Everyone in the Qin family is evil. Can you blame others for this? Brother Long, let's go. Qin Yashuang turned her head and said to Long Yu. Long Yu didn't have a good impression of the Qin family, let alone now that he had seen their true colors. He had appeared just to bring Qin Yashuang away. With him around, the Qin family wouldn't dare to stop him, unless they wanted the entire Qin family to perish. Qin Changyu stood in place and didn't dare to move. The Emperor Realm elders of the Qin family, who were surrounding Qin Yashuang, didn't dare to say a word. The entire Qin family could only watch Long Yu and Qin Yashuang leave the Qin family's mansion. Looking at Qin Yashuang and Long Yu's backs as they left, everyone in the Qin family was filled with regret. If they knew that Qin Yashuang and Long Yu were together, they would have foolishly believed that Long Yu would abandon Qin Yashuang. They had lost a great chance to make friends with Long Yu. Forget about making friends with Long Yu. Long Yu probably didn't have a good impression of the entire Qin family. It's a pity about that ancient pill. Even I haven't taken that pill before. Qin Zhongyu's eldest son said with pity. Family head Qin Zhongyu was standing at the side, listening to this. He felt like vomiting blood and dying from anger. At this time, this brat was still thinking about that ancient grade medicinal pill. That's all. No wonder the Qin family was in decline. His sons were all short-sighted. They only knew how to fool around with other young masters. When did they spend so much time on cultivation? Can Long Yu overturn the heavens? Qin Zhangyu narrowed his eyes. Thinking that the Gongsun clan had actually given Long Yu 2 million Shinbi, he felt quite satisfied. The patriarch of the Gongsun clan would never swallow his anger that his son had been killed. Now that he had given 2 million Shinbi, it was only to wash away the suspicion. At that time, Long Yu might just die, and the murderer might not be found. All of you, go back and cultivate. Qin Zhangyu shouted and turned around to leave. He wasn't worried that Long Yu would harm the Qin family because of today's matter. That would only happen if Long Yu was alive to increase his cultivation. After leaving the Qin family, Long Yu and Qin Yashuang met up with Zi Su and Mother Qin. They went to the sanctum together. On the way, Long Yu observed Mother Qin's condition and found out that she really had a rare disease. It made it difficult for her to walk freely. Her face looked old and her breathing was chaotic. If they couldn't find a way to cure her, she might not live more than 3 years. This made Qin Yashuang and Zisu's mood very bad. But in general, being able to leave the Qin family was a kind of relief. Mother Qin had suffered a lot in the Qin family. Now, she could finally leave the cage. Long Yu and the others brought Mother Qin to the office on the first floor of the sacred tower. After registering Mother Qin, she had the authority to step onto the 1,560th floor of the sacred tower. This floor originally didn't have a name, but now that it belonged to Long Yu, it was called the Dragon Domain. The other floors of the sacred tower were named the same way. It was very easy to distinguish who lived on each floor and avoid any trouble. Soon, Qin Yashuang and Zi Su settled Mother Qin down. As for Long Yu, he directly went to the Star Soul Formation to cultivate. He absorbed the heaven and earth spiritual qi while sensing the Dubhi stars. He wanted to cultivate the Dubhi qi drawing technique to the transformation realm. But before that, Long Yu directly recorded the Dubhi qi drawing technique in a jade slip. It took him 2 hours. Of course, the Dubhi qi drawing technique that he recorded was not complete. He could only rely on cultivating it to the transcendent realm, which was the same realm as Long Yu's current realm. But for Qin Yashuang and Zi Su, it was definitely enough for the time being. When the two women cultivated it to the transcendent realm, Long Yu would naturally step into the transformation realm. At that time, he just had to draw a new jade slip. Qin Yashuang and Zi Su were very surprised about the Dubhi qi drawing technique. From what they had seen and heard so far, they had only heard of the existence of this type of cultivation technique. They had never seen it before. They didn't expect that Long Yu would actually teach it. I snatched this martial technique when I participated in the battle for the Red Emperor's illusion realm in the North Snow Empire. My opponents were 2 young experts in the late stage of the King realm. Long Yu casually explained to the 2 women, in that battle for the Red Emperor's illusion realm, the 2 experts in the late stage of the King realm both failed. In the end, only I obtained the final reward, which was this Dubhi qi drawing technique. Because of this, the Red Emperor gave me the Red Emperor's order. I see. When the 2 women heard this, their eyes immediately lit up. They didn't expect that Long Yu, who was only in the Theurgy secret realm, would use a strategy to snatch something from the hands of the experts in the late stage of the King realm. No wonder the Red Emperor took a fancy to it. After hearing Long Yu's explanation, the 2 women now knew that the North Snow Empire wasn't a big place. Even the strongest experts there were only in the late stage of the Emperor realm. Yu Hanqin was already the strongest among them. This was simply unimaginable in the holy city of the 5 emperors. Didn't this mean that even their father, who was in the early stage of the Emperor realm, could completely dominate the North Snow Empire? However, the Qin family had so many resources, but none of their juniors were promising. Compared to the Qin family, the North Snow Empire's resources were obviously much less. However, the North Snow Empire had 2 young geniuses, Yu Hanqin and Long Yu. In contrast, the Qin family was even more useless. Although Long Yu had already treated Qin Yashuang and Su as his own people, he still hadn't taught them other martial skills, such as the ancient rank Fallen Dark Star. These kinds of martial skills involve Long Yu's greatest secrets. Even in front of the people closest to him, he couldn't reveal even the slightest bit of it. Otherwise, he might suffer a disaster. Until now, Long Yu didn't know what secrets the Taiwu Empire knew about him. This made Long Yu feel like there was a sharp blade on his back. He had to be vigilant at all times. Fortunately, he was in the Holy Tower now, so no one would come to cause trouble. In the next few days, Long Yu waited for the Red Emperor to return. At the same time, he cultivated the Dubhe Qi drawing martial technique. He also absorbed a lot of spiritual energy in the Star Spirit Array, all of which was used to activate the 7th Theurgy seed. During this time, Long Yu didn't leave the Dragon Domain. Qin Yashuang and Su were the same. The two women were madly cultivating the Dubhe Qi drawing martial technique. This was a powerful martial technique related to their future cultivation speed, so they valued it greatly. Chapter 804. The second floor of the Holy Tower was called the Five Emperors' Hall. It was a grand place that would only be opened when something big happened in the alliance of five emperors. Qin Yashuang and Su followed Long Yu. Long Yu made a hand seal and instantly teleported from the dragon territory to the Five Emperors' Hall. As soon as they opened their eyes, they saw many people already waiting. Senior brother Xing Fa. Long Yu saw Xing Fa, who was wearing a red cloak. His figure was tall and straight. He stood there, exuding a terrifying aura like a god of death. This was an aura that could only be produced by killing countless beasts. No one else could learn it even if they wanted to. When Xing Fa saw Long Yu, he smiled and nodded. Junior brother, you're here. Master is finally back today and can officially accept you as a personal disciple. Of course, the most important thing today is to receive the gifts from everyone and to meet the other four emperors. Long Yu nodded. He already knew about this, but he was curious about the gifts he was about to receive. He had already received many gifts from the holy cities of five emperors and the surrounding forces who wanted to befriend him. Among them, the best gifts were from the 6 sects, 10 nations, and the 3 great firms. However, there were merely some ancient rank medicinal pills, ranging from low to mid-grade. The Taiwu Empire had also given him a special crystal of the Emperor Realm. Now, what gifts would the alliance of 5 emperors give to Long Yu? Not only Long Yu was looking forward to it, but even Xing Fa, Qin Yashuang, Su, and the others were looking forward to it. Although it was not for them, they could at least see it, right? One had to know that Long Yu was a genius who set foot on the 30th floor of the 5 emperors' fantasy world. If others didn't give him something good, it would be too embarrassing. At this time, in the Hall of the 5 emperors, only Xing Fa and 2 other people were there. They were all the direct disciples of the Red Emperor. As for the direct disciples of the other 4 emperors, they would naturally arrive with the other 4 emperors later. With Xing Fa's introduction, Long Yu soon got to know the other 2. One of them was a young man who was also wearing a red cloak. His face looked extremely determined, and his body also emitted a terrifying aura like Xing Fa's. The peak of the great Emperor realm. He's called Dao Jingtian. He's your second senior brother. He's been exterminating exotic beasts with me all year round. His contributions over the years aren't any less than mine. Xing Fa pointed at the young man in the red cloak and introduced him. Senior brother Dao. Long Yu nodded lightly as a form of greeting. Compared to Xing Fa, Dao Jingtian didn't seem to be as good with words. He only nodded slightly and said nothing else. This is your 5th senior brother. Don't be fooled by the fact that he only knows how to eat every day. His strength isn't bad either. He's an early-stage emperor now, and has only been under Master's tutelage for 3 years. Xing Fa introduced a fatty on the other side. This fatty was currently holding a barbecued leg and chewing on it. At first glance, this person looked like he was overflowing with fat. This person was an early-stage emperor genius. Long Yu couldn't believe it, This guy, he wouldn't just throw out a barbecued leg and let it explode to kill his enemies, would he? Long Yu couldn't help but think of it in a bad way. This must be Shao Qi. He's much luckier than us. The fatty looked at the two girls behind Long Yu with an envious expression. I'm Yulin Feng. Shao Qi, look, isn't your fifth senior brother handsome and elegant? Long Yu didn't say anything. He only stared at Yulin Feng, not knowing what to say. Right, I heard that you and Shao Qi are both from the remote North Snow dynasty. Does that mean you know Shao Qi very well? Yulin Feng ran over and asked with a wretched expression, Look, do you think your fifth senior brother and your sixth senior sister are compatible? Long Yu was shocked by the fatty's words for a while. Then he said, Sixth senior sister is a demon cultivator. She is an ice bird. It's fine. Race isn't the problem. True love is everything. Shao Qi, you have to help your fifth senior brother. Your sixth senior sister doesn't usually pay attention to me. It's all up to you now. The fatty looked at Long Yu with a sneaky expression. All right, Long Yu came to the Five Emperors Hall once. He hadn't even met his master yet, but he was already forced to be a matchmaker? TSK, fatty, get out of the way. Look at you. How can you be worthy of sixth junior sister? Right at this moment, another voice sounded out from behind Long Yu, and it instantly drew the attention of most of the people here. Long Yu also turned his head to look and saw a young swordsman dressed in a scarlet robe. This young swordsman could be said to be really handsome, and there was a scarlet long sword hanging from his waist. With one look, one could tell that it was an ancient ranked combat weapon, and it was definitely not a low-grade one. Unfortunately, this young swordsman was a little short. He could only reach Long Yu's shoulder. It really didn't match his handsome appearance. It was a pity. Shao Si, you've completed your mission? Xing Fa saw this young swordsman, who was a little short, and greeted him with a smile. Done. They're just bandits. What's there to be afraid of? The young swordsman smiled and turned his head to look at Long Yu. This is our seventh junior brother? Not bad, not bad. I heard that he only has a cultivation of 5 divine realms, but he actually stepped into the 30th level of the 5 Emperors illusion world. As 6 divine realms, that's pretty fast. Shao Qi, this is your 4th senior brother, Nailin Jun. His martial arts talent is extremely high, and his swordsmanship is outstanding. Xing Fa introduced. Senior brother Nailin, nice to meet you. Long Yu greeted him politely. We're brothers, don't mind me. Nailin Jun said with a graceful smile. Then, he pointed at the fatty Yulin Feng. However, this fellow actually dared to snatch my 6th junior sister. He's really audacious. Why doesn't he look at himself first? Is he worthy of 6th junior sister? Short people don't have the right to speak. Although the fatty was fat, he was tall. Yulin Feng squinted his eyes, looking down on Nailin Jun. Fatty, if you have the guts, come out and fight me. Nailin Jun was instantly enraged and shouted, Let's fight then. Do you think I'm afraid of you? The fatty sneered, not the slightest bit afraid. Eldest senior brother, is it really okay for them to be like this? Long Yu looked at the two of them fighting, sweating a little. It's fine, they're used to it. Xing Fa could not do anything to the two of them. He could only shake his head, indicating that there was no need to care. Nailin Jun and Yulin Feng, one fat and one short, immediately started to scold each other. Their words were so rich that even Long Yu had never heard of it before. He was afraid that the two of them would fight because of a disagreement. However, Long Yu was too worried. To the two of them, scolding was one thing, but they definitely could not attack each other. It was not because of their brotherly relationship, but because whoever attacked first would mean that the one who couldn't win the scolding would lose. Wouldn't that mean that they would lose in a scolding battle? Naturally, the two of them would not admit defeat. Cough, cough. Master should be here soon. Let's find a place to sit. We'll talk about the gifts between us brothers later. Now, we should prepare to receive the gifts from the other 4 emperors. Look forward to it. Xing Fa patted Long Yu's shoulder and said with a smile. And, of course, Long Yu was looking forward to it. The gifts from the 5 emperors. How could they be underestimated? Before becoming the personal disciple of the Red Emperor, Long Yu had already obtained the Dubhe Chi drawing technique, and the Dubhe Chi drawing technique could only be said to be a gift from the Red Emperor to the country where Yu Hanshin was located. The gift given to the country where Yu Hanshin was located was already so powerful. Then, how heaven-defying would the gifts given to Yu Hanshin by the other four emperors be? Everyone found a place to sit down. As expected, just as they sat down, two familiar figures to Long Yu suddenly appeared in the hall of the five emperors. The old man in a red robe, the Red Emperor. The beautiful woman in white, Yu Hanshin. As soon as the two of them arrived at the hall of the five emperors, they immediately noticed Long Yu, Qin Yashuang, and Zi Su, who were sitting on the side. Their faces suddenly revealed a smile. "Kid, I guess that you would come to the sacred city, but I didn't expect you to come so soon. It seems that you provoked an empire in the North Snow dynasty?" The Red Emperor glanced at Long Yu and asked with a smile. And Long Yu could only nod. He really didn't want to come so soon, but he was forced by Emperor Yundan. 30th level, you're stronger than me. It seems that I underestimated you. Yu Hanshin's eyes flashed with expectation. She looked at Long Yu and said, "Unfortunately, your martial arts realm is too low. No matter what, you have to step into the king realm as soon as possible." Long Yu nodded again. Unfortunately, Yu Hanshin didn't know that Long Yu could step into the king realm at any time if he wanted. It was just that he was afraid that his realm would be unstable, so he temporarily suppressed it at the 6th Taoist divine power realm. If there was a need to break through, Long Yu could do it in minutes. If he suddenly broke through in a life and death battle, it could reverse the situation. "I heard that when you stepped on the 30th level of the Five Emperors illusion world, the entire illusion world of the Five Emperors collapsed. Otherwise, how could you continue fighting?" The Red Emperor asked Long Yu. "That's not true. Even if the illusion world didn't collapse, I wouldn't have the strength to fight again." Long Yu said the truth and shook his head. "You're quite modest." The Red Emperor smiled with satisfaction and then said directly, "Now, I officially accept you as my 7th disciple. Long Yu, are you willing?" "I am willing." Of course, Long Yu agreed right away. "Very well, if that's the case, I'll give you a gift as your Shifu. Just tell me what you want. As long as I can give it to you, it won't be a problem." The Red Emperor smiled and said, "Little Six's gift at the time was to go to the North Snow Empire and provide some pill recipes, weapon molds, and grand desolate martial skills. I did that. What about you? What do you want?" As soon as the Red Emperor said that, everyone went silent. Everyone wanted to know what Long Yu wanted the most right now. "Anything is really fine?" Long Yu asked in surprise. "Of course, as long as I have it." The Red Emperor nodded and said, "As one of the five emperors, the leader of the alliance of five emperors, one of the five strongest people in Shenwu world, as long as it's something that exists in this world, what can't he give?" I want the divine rune crystals." Chapter 805. Divine rune crystals are very useful to Long Yu. Just the first step of repairing the Dragon Skeleton Tower requires 1,000 grade, 1 divine rune crystals to turn it into an ancient weapon. And this is only the first step. To repair it further, 10,000 grade, 1 divine rune crystals are needed. To completely repair it, 100,000 grade, 1 divine rune crystals are needed. This number is enough to scare even the Red Emperor to death. Of course, the Red Emperor can't take out 100,000 grade, 1 divine rune crystals. In fact, even the Red Emperor would find it very difficult to take out grade 1 divine rune crystals. After all, even the most sturdy structure of Shenwu world, the Five Emperors' Sacred Tower, only used a few thousand grade 1 divine rune crystals to reinforce it. It's easy to imagine how hard it is to obtain a grade 1 divine rune crystal, because it's not something that Shenwu world can create. Even the grade 1 divine rune crystals used to reinforce the Sacred Tower are all extracted from exotic beast fortresses. In other words, in Shenwu world, the only way to obtain a grade 1 divine rune crystal is to fight against exotic beasts and destroy their fortresses. The first step of repairing the Dragon Skeleton Tower requires 1,000 grade 1 divine rune crystals, And if I want to quickly comprehend the Divine Rune of Death and Divine Rune of Azura, I'll need at least 1,000 Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals to convert. At the current stage, my need for Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals is the highest. Just thinking about how much he needs Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals made Long Yu's head hurt. He and the Envoy of Death destroyed an exotic beast fortress before to get 300 Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals. In other words, if Long Yu wants to rely on himself to get 1,000 Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals, he'll have to wait for 2 years, and he'll have to destroy an exotic beast fortress at least 3 times. Long Yu can't be bothered to wait that long. And since the Red Emperor asked him what he needed, he didn't hesitate to tell him. Obviously, hearing the words Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals come out of Long Yu's mouth, the Red Emperor and everyone else were surprised. They didn't think that Long Yu would know about something like Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals. Divine Rune Crystals only have one use for you, and that is to comprehend divine runes. The Scarlet Emperor was slightly taken aback. Then he smiled and said, "Even if it's a divine rune that you have never comprehended before, you only need 200 Grade 1 Divine Rune Crystals to completely comprehend it by converting the attributes of the Divine Rune Crystals. Moreover, the Dubhi drawing martial technique also amplifies the conversion effect of the Divine Character Crystals. All in all, I only need around 100 crystals. No, the more the better. It would be best if there were 1,000 of them." Long Yu shook his head and said firmly, if the Red Emperor's gift of acknowledging him as his master was only 100 divine symbol crystals, then that would be a little too disappointing. It wouldn't even be enough to repair 1/10 of the Dragon Skeleton Tower. Long Yu's request clearly surprised the Red Emperor. However, since it was a request from his direct disciple, he naturally would not reject it. I still have 321st class Divine Rune Crystals of various attributes here. I'll give them all to you. The Red Emperor decisively took out an interspatial ring and handed it to Long Yu. Long Yu took the interspatial ring and immediately felt it. There were indeed 321st class Divine Rune Crystals. From the way the Red Emperor had taken them out without hesitation, it was clear that these Divine Rune Crystals were all the savings of the Red Emperor. "Thank you, Master." Long Yu was naturally happy. 321st class Divine Rune Crystals. If he sold them to the Lin Clan Trading Company, that would be the equivalent of 32 million Shinbi. How much wealth was that? Of course, Long Yu couldn't sell them. From now on, he had to start accumulating Divine Rune Crystals and attempt to repair the Dragon Skeleton Tower. I've given them to you. Little 7, can you tell me what you want to do with so many Divine Rune Crystals? The Red Emperor was still very curious about this. He wanted to figure out, after connecting the information he had heard from Murong Xiujin and the others. It's nothing much. It's just that when I was on a floating island, I happened to obtain a defective Desolate level warrior. According to the description of the warrior, as long as I have enough Divine Rune Crystals, I can repair the warrior. Long Yu told the truth. Others already knew that he had the Dragon Skeleton Tower, so there was no need to hide it. At most, they would know that he had obtained this Desolate level warrior. As for the news of Geo Dragon Emperor, Long Yu already knew how to hide it. Everything he had obtained was recorded in the Dragon Skeleton Tower. This way, at most, people's attention would be drawn to the Dragon Skeleton Tower, but no one would notice Long Yu himself. Who would have guessed that Long Yu had actually obtained control of the Dragon Skeleton Tower, because he had the Dragon Seal of the 9 Underworlds. Now, he no longer had the Dragon Seal of the 9 Underworlds, but he had the Supreme Grade Ancient Warrior, the Nether Dragon Blade. No one knew its origin. Even though Shu Chan had been by Long Yu's side when the Nether Dragon Blade had been forged, Shu Chan had been in a coma at that time. The Dragon Skeleton Tower would become the cover for all of Long Yu's secrets. Because of this, Long Yu had put repairing the Dragon Skeleton Tower on his agenda, and directly requested that he needed Divine Rune Crystals to repair it. The Red Emperor did not disappoint Long Yu. So that's how it is. Hearing Long Yu's explanation, the Red Emperor nodded. When the Red Emperor was in the illusion, he had already sensed that Long Yu had a unique power. Now, It seemed that it came from the giant tower warrior that he had. The Red Emperor did not ask anything else. There were too many inheritances in the Shunwu world, and Long Yu's Dragon Skeleton Tower was only one of them. If you want more divine rune crystals, you can use the Red Emperor's points to exchange for them from the Alliance of 5 Emperors, or you can ask your first and second brother. They are both veterans in destroying exotic beast nests. They must have quite a bit of savings. The Red Emperor patted Long Yu's shoulder and reminded him with a smile. Thank you. Shifu. Long Yu thanked him again. The Red Emperor's words had indeed provided him with a lot of ideas. Right now, it's very difficult for him to destroy the exotic beast fortress. But there are people who can, and there are people who specialize in doing so. First brother Xing Fa and second brother Dao Jingtian have been fighting against the exotic beasts, so they must have quite a bit of divine rune crystals on them, right? Long Yu, of course, wouldn't want to take his senior brother's things for free, but he could use other things to exchange for them. Furthermore, the Alliance of 5 Emperors should also have quite a bit of divine rune crystals. Long Yu could donate some things that are useless to him, exchange them for Red Emperor's points, and then exchange them for some divine rune crystals. Moreover, judging from Lin Rueitsai's purchase of divine rune crystals in the holy city of the 5 Emperors, there was still a black market for divine rune crystals. If Long Yu could enter the black market, he would definitely be able to buy some divine rune crystals. Before long, you could think for too long. The other 4 emperors besides the Red Emperor finally arrived at the 5 Emperors' Hall. Everyone had come to congratulate Long Yu on becoming the Red Emperor's 7th personal disciple. In other words, they had come to congratulate the Red Emperor for accepting another personal disciple. The first to arrive was the Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor led many of his personal disciples, including the young Blackblade, who had just been accepted, to congratulate the Red Emperor and Long Yu, and also gave them a big gift. An ancient level supreme grade pill, the Heavenly Demon Pill. Not only did this Heavenly Demon Pill contain heaven and earth spiritual chi that far surpassed the special crystals, but it also had an extremely pure shadow, divine rune aura. Consuming this pill could greatly enhance the compatibility between the cultivator and the shadow attribute divine rune. Its effect was equivalent to an enhanced version of the Shadow Emperor pill. To Long Yu, its effect was self-evident. As expected of the Demon Emperor. What a generous gift. The Heavenly Demon Pill, such an ancient level supreme grade pill, the entire alliance of 5 emperors can only see a few in a year. When the Red Emperor saw this pill, he was extremely happy. After all, this pill had an excellent effect on Long Yu. Thank you, Lord Demon Emperor. Long Yu received the Heavenly Demon Pill and bowed respectfully to the figure of the Demon Emperor, who was shrouded in the shadow of the demonic aura. Just for this Heavenly Demon Pill, Long Yu could not neglect the Demon Emperor. Brother Long Yu, you are a rare genius that has not appeared for decades. The Heavenly Demon Pill was prepared for such a talent. The Demon Emperor laughed and led his disciples to the side to sit down. Following him was the head disciple of the Holy Emperor, Qi Tianming, and a few other personal disciples of the Holy Emperor. However, the Holy Emperor himself did not come. No one knew what he was doing. Junior Brother Long, I'm sorry. Master, the Holy Emperor is not in the Holy City recently. I can only congratulate you on behalf of Master. Come, take a look. Is this useful to you? Qi Tianming was dressed in a white robe and looked gentle and scholarly. He took out a small bottle, and within the bottle was a clear stream of water. The clear water gave off a mystical power. Duankong's sacred spring. Next to him, Xing Imo stood up and shouted in surprise. Good heavens, he even took out this thing. That's right, Duankong's sacred spring. Qi Tianming smiled and explained to Long Yu. As long as you absorb the power of this small bottle of Duankong's sacred spring, you will be able to harmonize with the divine rune of space. Of course, you'll have to wait until you reach the Imperial Path Arcane Realm before you can absorb it, otherwise it will be wasted. Not only that, after using the Duankong's sacred spring, you will naturally be able to comprehend the Void Severance rune. This is the power of the divine rune of origin. Behind Qi Tianming, Another personal disciple of the Holy Emperor smiled and said, Void Severance Rune, Origin Divine Rune. Hearing these two words, Long Yu was truly surprised. He didn't think that in the Shun Wu world, even though there was no divine rune origin, there would be some miraculous treasures that could allow people to comprehend Origin Divine Rune. Of course, the current Long Yu had to act like this was the first time he had heard of this. He pretended not to know and asked in confusion, Divine runes are divided into levels? I only know that comprehending divine rune from a complete divine rune engraving is even more powerful than copying divine rune. What is this Origin Divine Rune? The power of divine rune is also divided into levels. The most powerful is Origin, followed by engraving, and finally copy. Qi Tianming smiled and explained, The Shadow Divine Rune that you comprehended is the power of Origin Divine Rune. Don't you know that? So the divine rune of 9 serenities is so powerful. I didn't know that. I comprehended it from my ancient pagoda soldier. Chapter 806. Long Yu took the Duankong Sacred Spring and decided to absorb it as soon as he enters the Imperial Path Secret Realm. He's been eyeing the power of spatial runes for a very long time. As long as he consumes the Duankong Sacred Spring, he'll be able to comprehend the Space Severance Rune, a type of origin rune. This Duankong Sacred Spring must be very valuable, right? Long Yu instinctively asked. It's fine. The Divine Emperor searched many places in the last 10 years and only managed to find this small bottle. Qi Tianming smiled. In truth, this small bottle of Duankong Sacred Spring doesn't have much use. Other than allowing you to become compatible with the spatial rune, the Space Severance Rune itself isn't very practical. Why is that? Long Yu didn't quite understand. Not all spatial runes can allow you to control space. If you want to instantly travel through space, you can use other methods, but don't even think about using the Space Severance Rune. This type of rune is an extremely offensive divine rune that can break space itself. Think about it. Would you dare to enter a broken space yourself? Qi Tianming only explained half of it before smiling and asking in return. Long Yu understood right away. So even though the Space Severance Rune is a spatial rune, it can't be used to travel through space or teleport. It's only a pure, offensive divine rune. If that's the case, the Space Severance Rune's offensive power must be quite high. Long Yu had a new question. That's the problem. Qi Tianming shook his head. The Space Severance Rune is an origin rune, so it should be extremely powerful. But everyone knows that divine runes need to be used in conjunction with martial skills and thaumaturgies in order to display their true power. The problem is that even if we search the entire Shunwu world, we still can't find a single martial skill that can be used in conjunction with the Space Severance Rune. As for thaumaturgies, that's even more impossible. Those who can comprehend the space-shattering godly script are those who have consumed the Duankong Sacred Spring. In other words, they are all cultivators of the Emperor Path Secret Realm. Their 7 divine powers have already been fixed, so it is impossible for them to change to something related to the space-shattering godly script. Qi Tianming said helplessly, So, although this thing is precious, no one can bring out its true might because there is no suitable martial technique. I see. Long Yu was suddenly enlightened. On the surface, he looked a little regretful, but in fact, he had a lot of hope in his heart. Perhaps the Death Messenger knew how to exert the true power of the space-splitting divine rune. The envoy of death came from beyond the sky and followed the Juyo Dragon Emperor for countless years, so he must have seen the Space Severance divine script before. This can be seen from how the Duankong Sacred Spring appeared in Shenwu World. It must have been placed in his own mini-world by the Juyo Dragon Emperor. Otherwise, how could it have appeared? Since that was the case, it was very likely that the Envoy of Death knew a martial skill that was compatible with the space-severing divine rune. Qi Tianming led a few of the Saint Emperor's personal disciples to the side to rest, followed by the Flame Emperor and his 3 personal disciples. The Flame Emperor's entire body was enveloped in flames. As soon as he appeared, the temperature in the conference hall of the five emperors rose by a lot. As soon as he appeared, he looked at Long Yu and smiled. Heroes are born young. This is for you. I hope that you won't disappoint us in the future and become a powerful member of our alliance of five emperors. He casually threw out a small bottle. Inside the bottle was a cluster of deep flames. Shadow kindling. After reaching the Imperial Path secret realm, you can absorb its power, allowing you to directly fuse with Shadow and Fire Divine runes, the Flame Emperor casually explained. But for you, this thing only has one use, which is to fuse with Fire Divine runes. It was a dual elemental treasure. Everyone present was amazed. The Shadow Kindling was not an ordinary elemental treasure. From a certain point of view, its value definitely surpassed that of the Duankong Sacred Spring. Although the effect was only half for Long Yu, its value was definitely extremely high. To be able to give away a treasure like the Shadow Kindling, it showed that the Flame Emperor had high expectations for Long Yu. If Long Yu absorbed the power of the Shadow Kindling, then in the future, Long Yu would be compatible with the Fire Divine runes. In the future, every time he used the Fire Divine runes, he would think of the Flame Emperor. Similarly, every time Long Yu used the power of the Space Divine runes, he would probably think of the Saint Emperor and Qi Tianming. This was the reason why they gave him these gifts. In comparison, although the Heavenly Demon Elixir given by the Demon Emperor was far more useful to Long Yu than the other two treasures, in reality, it did not leave as deep an impression on Long Yu as the other two treasures. Thank you, Lord Flame Emperor. Long Yu thanked him respectfully. You're welcome. The Flame Emperor smiled slightly, turned around, and led his direct disciple to another seat. The Flame Emperor's figure was thin, and his entire body was enveloped in flames, making it difficult to see his face clearly. However, if he was not enveloped in flames, the Flame Emperor should be a rather handsome young man. Are there no women among the five emperors? Long Yu suddenly thought of a question and could not help but ask. When they heard Long Yu suddenly ask such a question, everyone present was stunned. However, they immediately burst into laughter. Qi Tianming did not know whether to laugh or cry. My master, the Saint Emperor, is a woman. I see. Long Yu scratched the back of his head and smiled embarrassedly. Sorry, I was too presumptuous. It's fine. The Saint Emperor is always away. This is not the first time you've asked such a question. The Red Emperor smiled and waved his hand, letting this little interlude pass. Very quickly, Lei Emperor also brought his people over, including his new direct disciple, Yi Ziwei, the genius girl with a lightning mark on her forehead. Ha! I'm here. Lei Emperor was a burly man. Just by looking at his eyes, one could feel that he was extremely arrogant. Laughing loudly, he brought his people to the five emperors' assembly hall. Similarly, he saw Long Yu at first glance. He did not say anything and walked straight to a place not far from Long Yu. He waved at Long Yu and said, Kid, come out a little. Let me take a closer look. Hearing Lei Emperor's words, Long Yu was a little puzzled. He glanced at the Red Emperor and saw the Red Emperor nod. Then he walked closer. As Lei Emperor walked, he looked around and carefully sized up Long Yu several times. Then he nodded and said with satisfaction, Not bad, not bad. Kid, you have a bright future. Although your current martial arts realm is not high, you have great potential. Long Yu was even more puzzled. What was this Lei Emperor up to? On the other side, the Demon Emperor snorted coldly. He seemed to be very unhappy with Lei Emperor. He asked directly, When I came over, I directly gave the Heavenly Demon Pill to this kid. You also know that this kid has comprehended the Divine Shadow characters at the origin level. As long as he takes the Heavenly Demon Pill, his strength will definitely increase by another level. Lunatic Lei, what is your gift? Why don't you take it out and let me see? The Demon Emperor said with a smug expression. Among the gifts given by the three emperors just now, the Heavenly Demon Pill was indeed the one that helped Long Yu the most. That was why he was so proud. However, Lei Emperor did not seem to care about the Demon Emperor at all. This burly man walked around Long Yu and observed him a few times. Then, he nodded in satisfaction and said, "Old demon, why are you in such a hurry? How can a mere heavenly demon pill compare to the great gift that I'm going to give? Ziwei, come here." Hearing Lei Emperor call her name, Yi Ziwei, who was not far behind him, was stunned. However, she did not say anything and directly walked over. "Haha, old demon, look carefully for me. What is a mere heavenly demon pill?" The Thunder Emperor laughed out loud and directly pushed Long Yu to the side of Yi Ziwei, who was walking over. Then he said something shocking. "This emperor wants to betroth Ziwei to that little dragon brat. How about it? Tell me, what is a heavenly demonic pill worth?" As soon as these words came out, everyone in the Hall of the Five Emperors was stunned. What? This Lei Emperor actually wanted to betroth Yi Ziwei to Long Yu. This was simply ridiculous. In comparison, not to mention a heavenly demon pill, even the Duankong Sacred Spring and the Dark Shadow Fire Seed added together could not compare to a single Yi Ziwei. Yi Ziwei was a young genius who had stepped onto the 28th level of the illusion realm of the Five Emperors. She was only 16 years old now, but she had already reached the late stage of the Emperor realm. Her future was limitless. Due to her natural thunder mark, she was the most likely personal disciple to inherit Lei Emperor's legacy. But now, Lei Emperor actually betrothed the personal disciple who was most likely to succeed him to Long Yu. This was simply going to scare everyone to death. It was not only the others who were stunned. In fact, even Yi Ziwei herself did not expect her master to make such a decision. It was even more unexpected for Long Yu. He had thought of all kinds of possible gifts, but this was the only one he did not expect. He actually wanted to give him a wife? Seeing that everyone in the Hall of the Five Emperors was shocked, Lei Emperor was finally satisfied. The unshaven Lei Emperor coughed. "Ahem, how is it? Is this gift sincere enough?" However, this emperor has not discussed this matter with Ziwei yet. As for the specifics, it still depends on Ziwei and little brother Long. Moreover, feelings cannot be cultivated in a short period of time. This series of words instantly made the demon emperor, who was sitting at the side, sneer. "You old lunatic, you're obviously trying to get something for nothing. You haven't even told your own disciple, and you've already sold your own disciple out, saying that feelings need to be cultivated. I think, you old lunatic, you didn't bring a gift, so you just casually thought of a way to deal with it, right?" As soon as the demon emperor said this, many people around instantly agreed with him. Of course, it was mainly Emperor Yin and the Red Emperor. Obviously, these two great emperors understood Lei Emperor's character very well. If it was said that Lei Emperor did this because he didn't bring a gift, the two of them would completely believe it. Bullsh asterisk T. Lei Emperor instantly snorted coldly. This emperor is sincerely hoping that these two little fellows can come together. Isn't it just right for geniuses to match geniuses? This, at the side, Long Yu was shocked to this point. He hurriedly said, "Senior Lei Emperor, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate, is it? Why? You despise this emperor's disciple." Lei Emperor's calm words directly shut up Long Yu's mouth. What else did Long Yu dare to say? If he said another word, he would be seen as looking down on Yi Ziwei and Lei Emperor. Then the consequences, this old lunatic. Chapter 807. No one knew what Lei Emperor was thinking. Anyway, to Long Yu, he wasn't crazy enough to hit on a little girl. Well, Yi Ziwei was only a 16-year-old girl. She was obviously a little girl. Even if she had extremely strong martial arts talent, she was still a little girl. Not long after, everyone left one after another. In this way, Long Yu could be considered to have gotten to know the Five Emperors. In addition, he also saw the overall strength of the Five Emperors' personal disciples. Almost every one of them was in the martial arts realm of the Emperor realm. Other than Long Yu, only Black Knife, Yi Ziwei, and Yu Hanxin had not stepped into the Emperor realm yet. And these four had just become the personal disciples of the Five Emperors, so it was completely normal for their cultivation to be slightly lower. Only Long Yu was currently only in the 6th Daos divinity realm. This was too abnormal. Yi Ziwei kept her head down until the end, not daring to look at Long Yu. Then, she left with Lei Emperor. Before she left, she turned back to look at Long Yu and smiled. Long Yu didn't know what her smile meant, but he didn't take it to heart. Just as the Demon Emperor had said, when Lei Emperor said that he would betroth Yi Ziwei to Long Yu, it was most likely a situation where he didn't bring any gifts, so he was just improvising. If he really took it seriously, trouble would follow. After the 4 emperors left with their people, only the Red Emperor's people were left. The Red Emperor waved his hand and directly brought everyone to his training place in the Sacred Tower, which was the 21st floor of the Sacred Tower, the Red Emperor's domain. In the Red Emperor's domain, there were also 10 astral soul formations. It seemed that the treatment of the Red Emperor and Long Yu and the other personal disciples wasn't much different. Qin Yashuang and Zisu, on the other hand, were shocked. This meant that the astral soul formations were on the same level as the 5 emperors, and they actually had the opportunity to enjoy it. After arriving at the Scarlet Deity's domain, the Scarlet Deity quickly disappeared. He had probably gone to cultivate. The rest of the people were much more casual. Long Yu directly found the eldest senior brother Xing Fa and second senior brother Dao Jingtian, and tried to find a way to ask them if they had first-class astral soul crystals. 2 senior brothers. Long Yu found the 2 and was about to speak, but before he could say anything, Xing Fa waved his hand and interrupted him. You want the astral soul crystals, right? Xing Fa smiled apologetically. It's not easy to get these things. Your second senior brother and I destroy an exotic beast nest every year, but we only get about 300 astral soul crystals. Sometimes, we only get 1 or 200. We have no use for the astral soul crystals, so once we get them, we donate them to the Alliance of 5 Emperors in exchange for Red Emperor points. If that's the case, it seems that I have to go find the Alliance of 5 Emperors. Long Yu was a little disappointed, but he didn't think that Xing Fa would lie to him. Just as Xing Fa said, he and Dao Jingtian's comprehension of the astral soul crystals had reached 100%, so there was no need to convert them into first-class astral soul crystals. Naturally, the astral soul crystals would be donated to the Alliance of 5 Emperors. If I had known that you needed astral soul crystals, I would have kept the 300 astral soul crystals we got 2 months ago for you. Dao Jingtian rarely spoke, but at this time he still smiled stiffly at Long Yu and explained. It could be seen that Dao Jingtian's murderous aura wasn't any less than Xing Fa's. He was definitely a ruthless fellow. It was only now that he was facing his own junior brother that he forced a smile. Long Yu nodded. It's fine. If that's the case, I'll go to the Alliance of 5 Emperors to take a look. Qin Yashuang and Zisu followed behind Long Yu respectfully. They saw Xing Fa and other important figures that they rarely saw on a daily basis, and they were quite nervous. The 2 girls thought about the scene just now. Lei Emperor actually wanted to betroth the genius girl's personal disciple, Yi Ziwei, to Long Yu. They felt a little bitter in their hearts. They knew that if they didn't work hard, they definitely wouldn't be able to catch up with Long Yu's improvement in strength. At that time, they would probably be of no use to Long Yu, and they might really be driven away by Long Yu. This made the 2 girls secretly determined that they must improve their martial arts realm as soon as possible. Before, they didn't have a stable cultivation environment. Now that they had the Astral Soul Matrix, they must put most of their attention into cultivation. After a while, Yu Hanxin walked towards Long Yu. She smiled and said, I didn't think we would meet again so soon. Yes. Long Yu nodded. He suddenly thought of something and asked, over at the North Snow Dynasty, are the Heavenly Mandate Manor and Azura Manor doing well? There won't be any problems. I gave Shu Chan and Hong Yu each a communication jade slip. Through that jade slip, they can contact me at any time, anywhere. Yu Hanxin said, I remember that in the Source Sky Tower, there's a powerful teleportation matrix built, which can allow the people of the Alliance of 5 Emperors to reach the Source Sky Tower instantly. Long Yu nodded in relief, then said with a smile, I guess there is such a large teleportation matrix in the North Snow Imperial City, right? If anything happens, you can immediately teleport back from the Sacred Tower. Yes, but to use the teleportation matrix of the Alliance of Five Emperors, if it is not for a mission, you will need to pay some alliance points. The further the distance, the more alliance points will be consumed. Yu Hanshi nodded and explained, after all, activating the teleportation matrix requires a lot of the power of the divine text of space. Usually, it is replenished with exotic beast crystals. The further the teleportation distance, the more consumption. It is impossible for anyone to use it casually. It is the same even if you are the personal disciple of the Red Emperor. Can you tell me about the alliance points? Long Yu continued to ask. He had just arrived here, so it was normal that he wasn't familiar with these things, so he didn't feel that there was anything wrong with asking. Yu Hanxin then explained it to Long Yu. Within the Alliance of Five Emperors, alliance points are the equivalent of Shinbi. You can use alliance points to exchange for many things. Similarly, to earn alliance points besides doing missions, you can also sell resources to the Alliance of Five Emperors, which is also known as donations. To directly teleport from the holy city of the Five Emperors to the North Snow Imperial City, the distance is very far. Every teleportation would consume several tens of thousands of spatial beast crystals. If converted to Shunbi, each teleportation would cost at least 1,000,000 Shunbi. Fortunately, the Alliance of Five Emperors has quite a lot of beast crystals. As long as you have enough alliance points, or Shunbi, they can teleport you. The North Snow Imperial City is after all a remote area of Shunwu world. It is a bit too far away from the holy city of the Five Emperors. Each teleportation is equivalent to 1,000,000 Shunbi, which is also 1,000,000 alliance points. How shocking! Long Yu couldn't help but sigh. Although this teleportation matrix is very convenient, isn't the consumption a bit too high? However, at a critical moment, not using this teleportation matrix is not a good idea, because if you don't use it, it will take at least 2 months to return to the North Snow Imperial City from the Five Emperors, and that's not counting the dangers you might run into on the way. In terms of the value of cultivation resources, alliance points and Shunbi are about the same. However, in the Alliance of Five Emperors, you can use alliance points to buy a lot of special things that can't be found in the outside world, Yu Hanxin continued. Aside from that, there are also Red Emperor points. Red Emperor points are the true benefits for us as direct disciples of the Five Emperors. Every time we complete a mission from the Alliance of Five Emperors, we will receive Red Emperor points equivalent to 10% of our alliance points. These Red Emperor points are extra. Once we accumulate enough, we can exchange them for the most important things in the entire Alliance of Five Emperors. For example, high ancient martial skills. Hearing that, Long Yu understood the difference between Red Emperor points and alliance points. Alliance points were the currency used by the cultivators in the Alliance of Five Emperors, and their value was equivalent to Shinbi. As for Red Emperor points, only the 7 current direct disciples of the Red Emperor had them. If you wanted to obtain Red Emperor points, you could only complete missions from the Alliance of Five Emperors. In addition to obtaining alliance points, you would also receive 10% of the Red Emperor points. It seems that the treatment of becoming a direct disciple of the Five Emperors is too good. Isn't this equivalent to having 2 rewards for completing any mission, one more than the ordinary cultivators in the Alliance of Five Emperors? Long Yu sighed in his heart. If he had known that there was such a benefit, of course, he would have risked his life to become a direct disciple of the Red Emperor, because this was definitely the easiest way to obtain cultivation resources. After a while, the Red Emperor appeared in front of everyone again. This time, he was holding 3 red cloaks in his hands. These are the special cloaks of the Red Emperor's direct disciples. The Red Emperor handed the red cloaks to Long Yu, and his old but energetic face revealed a smile. At the same time, this is also an ancient low-ranked combat weapon. It doesn't have any other uses, but it can be used once a day to condense a defensive barrier that can withstand an attack from an emperor. So powerful? Long Yu was taken aback. An ancient low-ranked combat weapon actually had such an ability? because this cloak has no other uses. It was only infused with some divine rune crystals, which made it extremely sturdy. The Red Emperor explained, "Even I can't break through this cloak's attack in one move." This was a good thing. Long Yu couldn't help but think that the combat weapons made by infusing divine rune crystals were indeed extraordinary. One should know that even the Envoy of Death had never mentioned using divine rune crystals to make combat weapons. As for these two, they are both high-ranked, great desolate combat weapons. The amount of divine rune crystals infused into them is slightly less, but if it is used as a defensive barrier, it can at least withstand an attack from a peak Emperor Realm expert. As the Red Emperor spoke, he handed the other two slightly weaker cloaks to Qin Yashuang and Zisu. The two girls were overwhelmed by the favor. To think that they would receive a battle weapon personally gifted by the Scarlet Emperor. Furthermore, this battle cloak could even withstand an attack from a peak Emperor Realm expert. "Thank you, Lord Red Emperor," the two girls said nervously. "No problem," the Red Emperor said with a smile. "Activating the cloak's defensive barrier requires a lot of energy. Because of the energy gathering formation, the cloak's energy will automatically recover to its full value every day." Chapter 808. The Red Emperor gave Long Yu, Qin Yashuang, and Zisu each a Red Emperor's cloak. Although they were of different grades, their effects were equally heaven-defying, especially the one Long Yu had. It could actually withstand a full blow from a martial emperor powerhouse. The significance of this was self-evident. However, this is nothing. If I can obtain 1,000 first-class divine rune crystals and restore the ancient Dragonbone Tower to the ancient grade, I can definitely withstand an attack from a martial emperor powerhouse by relying on the 9 Nether Sky screen. And not just once. However, obtaining 1,000 divine rune crystals is too difficult. Long Yu thought to himself. The Red Emperor had brought him to the Red Emperor's domain to give him the Red Emperor's cloak. After receiving the Red Emperor's cloak, Long Yu left with Qin Yashuang and Zisu. As for Yu Hanxin, Xing Fa, Dao Jingtian, and the others, they went to do their own things. The most important thing for everyone was cultivation. However, what Long Yu didn't know was that when Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian left, they were discussing whether they should start the next mission of exterminating exotic beast lairs as soon as possible. As his senior brothers, they hadn't given Long Yu any gifts yet. When the time came, they could give the divine rune crystals they obtained from exterminating exotic beast lairs to Long Yu. Because the Red Emperor's personal disciples hadn't arrived yet, they hadn't given him any gifts yet. Long Yu's third senior sister was out on a mission and didn't know when she would return. Long Yu didn't care much. He had obtained enough things today. The Duankong's Sacred Spring, the Shadow Fire Seed, 321st class divine rune crystals, the Heavenly Demon Pill, and the Red Emperor's cloak. Any one of these things could cause a bloodbath in the outside world. The value of each item far exceeded 10 million Shinbi. I'm going to absorb the Duankong's Sacred Spring after I reach the King Realm, so I can't sell it. The Heavenly Demon Pill is of great use to me. Not only can I not sell it, but I must find a way to obtain more. As for the Umbra Fire Seed, that is something that allows me to fuse with the Fire Divine runes. It isn't that useful, but I can sell it. But even if I sell it, it will only be 10 million divine coins. I don't need that money for now. In any case, I won't be able to exchange it for the 600 or so first-grade divine rune crystals I'm still lacking. It seems I can only prepare to complete the mission first. Long Yu made up his mind. However, before accepting the mission, he had to read up on some information, which was the information about the various races and exotic beasts in the Alliance of 5 Emperors. Long Yu's understanding of exotic beasts was definitely not inferior to the Alliance of 5 Emperors. However, Long Yu only wanted to know how much the Alliance of 5 Emperors knew and what information he could use to exchange for Alliance points. Without a doubt, this was the fastest way for Long Yu to earn Alliance points. After spending a day and a night, Long Yu finished reading the introduction of the various exotic beasts in the Alliance of Five Emperors. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He knew that he could make a fortune this time. Long Yu told Qin Yashuang and Zi Su to stay in the Dragon Domain to cultivate. As for Long Yu, he went to the third floor of the Holy Tower, which was the mission hall of the Alliance of Five Emperors. He was prepared to accept a mission and hire a bodyguard. Long Yu knew that there were many forces that wanted to kill him or capture him. Of course, he wouldn't let those people get what they wanted. Therefore, he had to bring a bodyguard on this trip, and it had to be an Emperor-level bodyguard. I want to accept this mission. Long Yu came to the mission hall and pointed at one of the missions on the mission board to one of the stewards. The steward didn't pay much attention at first, but when he saw the mission that Long Yu pointed at, he was shocked. "Oh my God, young Master Long, you're only in the 6th Daos Divine Power Realm now. How can you accept such a dangerous mission?" Exploring the winged god race's exotic beast lair is the highest level of danger among all the missions. The winged god race's exotic beasts were born with the ability to comprehend spatial divine text. Once a cultivator on a mission was discovered by the winged god race's patrol team, he wouldn't even know how he died. Even some Emperor-level experts who were proficient in hiding and scouting wouldn't dare to accept such a mission casually. But now, Long Yu, who had just caused an uproar in the city, came and said that he wanted to accept it. According to the usual practice, the steward naturally had to persuade Long Yu. But soon, he found that Long Yu was determined, so he couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. In fact, the steward was very jealous of Long Yu. He was only in the 6th Daos Divine Power Realm, but he was able to reach the 30th level of the Five Emperors fantasy world. Not only did he become the personal disciple of the Red Emperor, but he also caused a lot of rumors, saying that he was the most talented cultivator in the last 100 years. The steward naturally didn't believe it. In fact, when he saw that Long Yu insisted on accepting this mission, he felt quite satisfied in his heart. This was because no matter how he looked at it, it was impossible for Long Yu to complete this extremely difficult scouting mission. Furthermore, it was very likely that he would lose his life during the mission. The steward was looking forward to Long Yu's death in the mission. What a joke it would be. Don't think that you can surpass everything just because you became the personal disciple of an Emperor-level expert. The Divine Power Realm is just the Divine Power Realm. I think you won't be able to return from this mission. The steward looked at Long Yu and thought gloatingly. Of course, Long Yu didn't know what the steward was thinking. In fact, he didn't need to care about what the steward was thinking. Anyway, he was confident in this mission, and that was enough. To complete this mission, I have to at least find out the approximate number of winged god clan exotic beasts of different levels and the distribution of the buildings in the lair. The difficulty is indeed very high. This is the highest level of exploration mission. Long Yu thought to himself. After this mission was completed, the next mission would immediately appear, and that was to send an advance party to the exotic beast lair he had scouted to carry out a probing attack. The advance team was a team mission. It was the next stage of the exploration mission. The main task was to determine the general situation of the exotic beast lair and formulate a combat plan to eliminate the exotic beast lair. The final stage was to send a large number of experts to the exotic beast lair to eliminate it. Once the exotic beast lair was eliminated, the entire mission would be considered completed. This kind of mission against the exotic beast lair was the highest standard mission in the Alliance of Five Emperors. The rewards were also the most abundant. Just the exploration mission alone, if completed successfully, would be worth 5 million Alliance points. This was equivalent to 5 million Shunbi. Of course, this little amount of points wasn't enough to attract Long Yu's attention. 5 million Shunbi could only buy 51st class divine rune crystals. For Long Yu's needs, it was tantamount to putting out a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Therefore, what Long Yu was most concerned about was the mission related to the exotic beast information. After this exploration mission was completed, he could take advantage of the opportunity to complete some missions related to the exotic beast information. He learned many secrets from the Death Envoy that the Alliance of Five Emperors didn't know yet. Each of these secrets about the exotic beasts could be exchanged for tens of millions of alliance points. I want to issue a mercenary mission. Any Emperor Realm expert or Emperor Realm expert in the Alliance of Five Emperors can accept this mission to be my bodyguard. Long Yu immediately said to the supervisor, "The bodyguard's duty is to escort me to the exploration mission location and ensure that I won't be killed or captured by Emperor Realm or Emperor Realm cultivators along the way." Hearing Long Yu's request, the supervisor felt that it was reasonable and immediately issued the mission. He then asked, "Then, how much are you going to pay for this bodyguard mission? And how many people do you need?" "At least 3 Emperor Realm experts. As for the reward, take a look at this." Long Yu took out a strange bone about 3 feet long from his chest. This is the bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant. It is a material used to refine ancient combat weapons. Of course, using it to refine combat weapons is too much of a waste. If you have an outstanding alchemist, you can refine it into at least 10 dragon-esque elephant pills. This is a supreme ancient combat pill that can permanently increase the strength of a cultivator's body. The bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant was the final treasure left behind by the sect master of the Dark Shadow Spectre sect back in Shura County. Perhaps the sect master of the Dark Shadow Spectre sect didn't know how much this thing was worth, but it was obvious that even in the holy city of the 5 emperors, countless people would go crazy for it. The bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant. The supervisor could be said to be an experienced and knowledgeable person. When he saw the bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant, he immediately stood up in shock. His eyes were filled with endless shock. A 3 feet long bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant is worth at least 10 million Shunbi, and there's no market for it. Are you going to use it as the reward for this bodyguard mission? That's not worth it at all. The supervisor thought to himself. He could understand that Long Yu, as the personal disciple of the Red Emperor, should have many good things on him. But there was no need to waste it like this, right? A successful exploration mission would only be worth 5 million alliance points, which was equivalent to 5 million Shinbi. But this bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant was worth 10 million. Even if it was directly donated to the Alliance of 5 Emperors, it would still be better than using it as the reward for this bodyguard mission, right? However, Long Yu shook his head. What a joke. This thing could be refined into a pill that would permanently strengthen his physical body. How could he use it as a reward? I'm just using this as collateral because I don't have that much money right now. Long Yu glanced at some of the bodyguard missions on the board, then said, "As for the reward for this bodyguard mission, I'll give 1 million alliance points for each Emperor Realm expert, but I'll only pay it after I successfully return. If I fail the mission, I'll use the bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant as collateral. Is that okay with you?" That, of course, is not a problem. The supervisor nodded in understanding. Of course, this was not a problem. If Long Yu succeeded the mission, he'd receive 5 million alliance points. Giving out 3 million to the 3 Emperor Realm bodyguards wouldn't be a problem. If he failed, didn't he still have the bone of an ancient dragon-esque elephant as collateral? The cost of the bodyguard for an Emperor Realm expert was about 1 million Shunbi for 7 days. In other words, Long Yu had prepared for this mission for 7 days. A mission to explore the beast lair? I thought you were some kind of amazing genius, but it turns out you're just an ignorant fool who overestimates himself. Just then, a mocking voice came from behind Long Yu, attracting the attention of many in the mission hall. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.